Hello, 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 folks. We're going to get started here in about 1 minute. I hope you all are doing well. Great to see everybody here. We are back, baby. Hey there, Macy. Welcome to the stream. Great to have you here. Alrighty. Hello, 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 folks. How is everybody doing? Only one. Welcome to the stream. Got some new folks here today. Hey, say one. Good to see ya. Glad you're keeping busy. Hey, Renitz. Hey, Copper Lily. How's everybody doing today? Hey, Musa. Welcome. How are you all? Hey, Memento Mori. Good to see you. Oh, you've been on React Native for the software team. Very cool. Hanging in there. Good to hear. Hey, Chris. Good to see you. Hey, Copper Lily. Oh, Musa, it's your first time here. Well, welcome. We are very glad to have you. Oh, Memento Mori, you're working on your portfolio. Sounds like fun. Someone says, the software job isn't paid, but it's experience. Okay. Is it through a nonprofit or what's the avenue that you're working on this project, say one? Musa says, I recently joined 100 Devs. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. As many of you know, so we've got a lot of new folks here today. So I'll just give a brief introduction of who I am. So my name is Mayan Wolf, and I am a 100 Devs graduate. I'm currently working as a senior SQL developer, essentially, for a major university here in the United States. I am a back-end only dev. So as far as my day job anyway. So I don't get paid to do web development, but I do web development for fun here on the weekends with you all. And so my streams, we often do projects, like start to finish full stack projects on my stream. We generally use the MERN stack. But we don't always use React. So sometimes we do build a full stack React app. Sometimes we will build an app without React. We'll just use vanilla JavaScript, Node, Express, MongoDB, all those good things. We've also built some SQL based apps on my stream. So really whatever type of project you would like to build for the beginner to intermediate software developer, we have probably built it right here on stream. So if you would like to see my archive of all my past streams, you can do exclamation point YouTube in chat right now. So exclamation point YouTube will take you to my full archive of all my streams on my YouTube channel ad free. I don't run ads on my YouTube streams because I really, really don't like ads. So you get to see my archive ad free. KR says, hello, finally catching a stream. Great to have you here, KR. Hey, Jumpin' Joe, great to have you here. Seiwan says they mentioned they were working on an unpaid position. So they said it's a CEO who hired me to work with the team on an app. It is not paid because the app just started and hasn't made money yet. So wonderful that you're getting some experience there, say one. I'm curious, what is the plan for them to pay you? We're getting right into it. I love it. We're getting right in. We're talking the nitty gritty. We're talking getting jobs. We're talking interviewing. We're talking negotiation. What is their plan to pay you, say one? KR says, how are you feeling? How's your shoulder? Yeah, uh, we have been offline for the past couple weeks because I absolutely janked my shoulder. I was at a concert, and this might sound like a silly way to get injured, but I was at a concert. As you do at a concert, you are waving your hands, waving your hands in your air, in the air like you just don't care, and for a few hours, just wagging my hands around. And I was right up front at the concert, and my shoulder popped a few times, and I didn't really pay attention to it at the time. And then I really paid the price for that. A few days later, I have some joint issues in general. My joints really just don't like to stay where they're supposed to be. And so they tend to, wiggle around a little bit. And your muscles and your tendons don't like it when your bones don't stay in the right place. And so, without getting too specific and too, graphic on that, my shoulder was not a happy camper for a while there, but I got the right medical treatment, I got the right medication, and we're doing much better now. Um, I started my stream a little bit later today, because uh, I actually had a wonderful. I just finished about half an hour ago. I finished with a wonderful hour and a half conversation with a group on the 100 Devs Discord, talking about anxiety. We talked for about an hour and a half. Great big group of people on the Discord. We talked for about an hour and a half about mental health and anxiety and managing anxiety. And it was a great conversation. We covered a lot of ground there, and because I actually have anxiety. It might not seem like it because I'm a streamer. I have a fairly robust social media presence, but I absolutely do. And so, if I'm happy to continue that conversation today here on stream because I felt like it was really valuable and a really great conversation to have. So, if folks have questions about that, if they have questions about anxiety in interviews, if they have questions about anxiety in the workplace, fears about working in tech, concerns about, well, whatever. Yeah, let's just hear what's going on. Snarfin, thank you so much for the sub. My goodness, and I'm going to catch up a chat here in a minute. I see we're buzzing, but first we have to thank Snarf. Thank you so much, Snarf, for your subscription. You're very cool, and yes, thank you again. All right, catching up a chat. Here we go. Da, 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 da. Hi, Ivan. Great to see you here. Smitty, hello. Mosh Renee says mosh pit. Yeah, it was one of those situations where I was at a concert, front row, everybody smushed together. You're, reaching up toward the stage, and yeah, I just janked it. Copperly says, which concert? It was a concert by the incomparable Janelle Monet. So I'm curious, are there any other Janelle Monet fans in chat? Who loves Janelle Monet? Saywan, yeah, thank you for sharing that information, Saywan, about the app that you're working on. Um, Definitely, yeah, lots of great details there. But Saywan, what is their plan to pay you though? What's the I totally get the technical details of what you're working on. It sounds so dope. When are they going to pay you? What's the strategy? That's very important. What is the payment strategy? How are they not just getting all your work for free? I'm sure you're having a great time working on it, and that's awesome. But money, money, my friend. Hey, Snarfin. So good to see you. Thank you again. Jumpin' Joe says, I wish I was a part of that chat. You're talking about the anxiety chat. Well, we can continue that discussion here, like I mentioned. So feel free if you have questions or feel comfortable, asking a question in chat, then you are welcome to do so. Anna says, mind you play Valorant? No, I actually don't really have time to do like, you know, team-based online gaming, that type of thing. I like watching Dota. I don't play it myself, but I always watch the international, the Dota Championship, and I used to actually play Fortnite. I found Fortnite really fun because you can just jump in and do a couple games whenever you have a minute, and no pressure on competition or anything like that. So yeah, Fortnite I play a little bit, watch some Dota. Engineer Moore says, anxiety is such a struggle for me in all areas of my life. I think it is for a lot of us, right? I imagine that a lot of folks in chat would agree when, anxiety is at least some part of your life. Memento says, it's the worst. Anxiety and imposter syndrome are a heck of a combo. You just got to push through and practice, practice, practice. At least that's helped me, but I'm still not perfect. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So, practice is one of those things that a lot of us don't necessarily think about when we're thinking about dealing with anxiety. We always want to think, okay, what's the magic bullet? What's the pill that's or the one strategy that's going to make me immediately, become a perfectly functioning person and able to handle any social situation. If I can just do this one thing right, then I'll be able to do it. Then I'll be perfect. And unfortunately, like with most things, like with anything, it is a gradual process of gradual improvement and a gradual increase in comfort. And it starts with understanding our own limitations and not trying to push back past them right away, not trying to be the best or be perfect right away, and acknowledging that we have to take things slowly. So doing practice, but ramping it up slowly. So I'm a pianist. I play piano, mostly classical. And when I first started playing piano, you're playing like with one hand and one finger, right? You go boom, 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 and they start you out with one finger on one hand, and then eventually, you're up to 10 fingers on both hands. So it's a process, right? You start with one finger on one hand, and eventually you're up to 10. Oh, thank you, Musa. Memento says, I love her talking about Janelle Monáe. Yeah, Janelle Monáe is great. She's fantastic. If you've never seen her live, my goodness, she is a delight. She's incredible live. She absolutely puts 110% into her performances. And so, worth it. Even though I injured myself fairly badly, definitely worth it. Seiwan, okay, so going back to your situation, you're working on this app unpaid and there's no plan to pay you. I would absolutely, you need to revisit that. They right now they are taking advantage of you. I know you might say, "Oh, I'm getting experience." That is a classic trap, especially for a startup. They are going to squeeze you dry. You need to recognize your value. I know you are a skilled developer. I've seen what you've worked on in the past. You've done a ton. You have a ton of accomplishments. You've shared a lot of those accomplishments here in chat. You need to be getting paid for your time and your effort and your skill. Okay? So they need to work out some kind of compensation for you. Come up with your whatever your freelance hourly rate is. Fine. Get a contract on the table for them, have them sign it. They need to pay you. Don't work for free, please. No one, please don't. Copper Lily says, I spent 5 hours on the rail last night at an EDM show. I'm definitely feeling it. Whew, Nelly. Yeah. Gotta rest up after that. Deputy says, Mine Wolf, that was great to listen to. By the way, wanted to say, usually we do take people who have the mic for granted and sometimes forget how tough it can be for them to talk about their experiences, especially about some rough topics like past issues. Thanks for sharing. Yes. So one thing that's really important, and I like to stress this a lot, is that don't compare yourself to any celebrity or anyone on social media, because what they are putting out there for the world is a curated and edited version of themselves. It is what they're putting out there is what they choose to show you, including me. I only put out in here in front of the camera what I choose to show you and what I choose to share with you. So it's really important never to compare yourself to someone online, because you are not seeing the authentic version of themselves. They might seem like they're doing great. They might seem like their life is perfect, or they've got everything all figured out. I guarantee you they have all sorts of struggles they're not sharing. And so also, when I do share things with you, again, it's things I'm choosing to share. So it's things that I am emotionally prepared to share with you. It's things that I often, um, edit out certain sensitive information and things like that. So don't feel bad about asking me, oh, what are your struggles like with anxiety or things like that, because what I will choose to share with you is what I'm comfortable sharing, nothing more than that. Say one says, talking about not being paid. Yeah, but we haven't gotten to that yet. Yeah, they need to get to that like now, right now. There's no waiting to. You should not be working if they are not paying you. Get to it now. I'm sorry, I know I'm behind in chat, so we might have gotten there already, but just want to emphasize, don't do that. Yeah, if you pay me, exactly. Brown Skills, hi, how's it going? Hey, Terranite. No worries, Musa. I know it's late for some folks. We got started late today. Absolutely. Feel free to catch the live recap later on. Thank you so much for stopping in, Musa. Stefan says, I love that gaming stream we did. Yeah, I wish I had more time to game. I really don't. I volunteer a lot. I'm outside. I own my own house, so that means I have to do all the maintenance on my house. So there's a lot of that. I've got my dog. It's busy out here, man. Hey, Teddy. Teddy says, this is my first time I managed to catch you live. Welcome. I'm just about to head out. Can't stay. Want to be a back end dev. Yeah, back end is best end. Absolutely. After completing 100 devs, what days and times do you stream? Generally Sundays, so today, at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I normally start an hour earlier than we did today, but I had this lovely anxiety sort of focus group. So I made sure to make time for that prior to this stream today. Copperly says, I play piano for my cats. Fantastic. RDT says, Mindwolf, do you know when your Excel video will be uploaded to YouTube? Excellent question. I have a huge backlog of YouTube videos that I need to publish soon. No, 100%. I've got a massive backlog. I got tons of videos that are already on YouTube, but they're marked as private because I need to finish my last little bits of editing and things that I do. So you will soon see an avalanche of my backlog being published, I promise. Snarfin says, I haven't done a Code War since I started working. This will be a good refresher. Yeah, it's great to go back to basics occasionally. And I don't know how many we're going to do. Again, the Code Wars is kind of secondary. I just wanted to kind of have a conversation with you all, a bit of a chat. Also, make sure that, I'm not overstressing my shoulder too much with a lot of keyboard action. So we'll see, how we're feeling as I go. I'm trying to really take it easy and not, overstress. I have an appointment with a sports medicine doctor on Tuesday because this is not the first time I've jacked up my shoulder. So once you've done it, once you've messed up your shoulder once, it's unfortunately more likely to happen again. So I need to be really careful. KR says getting injured at a concert only means it was worth it. Yeah, I have no regrets, honestly. It's Janelle Monet. Like, no concerns. Sid, okay, I'll check that out. Jumpin' Joe says you can't be too hard on yourself. You know your own weaknesses that others don't see. Right, exactly. It's self kindness is the first um, step on the path to self improvement. Really, to understand that you yourself have value as you are, and there's opportunities to you know invest into that value and get returns. Right, get interest on that value that you already have by improving yourself even more. Yes. Yeah, there's all sorts of filters on social media, um, by default, a lot of social media applications apply filters to make you look better. So, yeah, never compare yourself to anybody online. I try to, as far as physical appearance, I try to present a mostly unfiltered version of myself. I don't wear makeup, not because I think makeup is bad. I don't present myself that way. But I do employ some subtle tricks to make myself look a little better. I use certain types of lighting temperatures. Um, I don't have any filters on my camera, but I use angles, and I'm conscious of my composition. Uh, so even those subtle little things. Yep, you can't become your best self or best dev without practicing failing. I fail all the time and still don't let that affect me too much. The goal is always 100% better every day. Yeah, there's a phrase that I like, and it's called no zero days. So the concept there is that you should never have a day where you do absolutely nothing to not even become better, but you should never have a day where you do absolutely nothing to enrich yourself or to sustain yourself. So even if that one thing is brushing your teeth or, you know, changing your clothes and you do literally nothing else that whole day, then that's not a zero day. Congratulations. So the idea is that you have the mentality of no zero days, and you're always doing something. And then over time, you can build up momentum and add to that, and have get more and more accomplished each day. Ah, yeah, lovely question, Debbie. Thank you. They say, I would love to hear how you've been dealing with your ADHD. Yes, I do have ADHD. How you deal with setting your habits in place. I got diagnosed this February. Congratulations. Explains so much about me in the past 10 years. Yeah. So it, in not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, people who are assigned female at birth are often late to be diagnosed with ADHD because the sort of the clinical standard for ADHD is the male hyperactive sort of presentation. So I never presented as hyperactive with ADHD. I was the inattentive type. So lots of trouble with conversation, but concentration. Lots of trouble with concentration. Lots of trouble with focus, sustained focus, motivation, which really doesn't exist. But anyway, the classical, why can't you just get up and put your clothes away, or why can't you remember to finish your math homework, that kind of thing. And so yeah, habits, focus, consistency, all of those things that they tell us are the recipe for success are very difficult for someone with ADHD. And I didn't even know I had it until a couple of years ago, and I didn't get diagnosed until last year. So I'm currently diagnosed and medicated, professionally diagnosed by a clinical psychiatrist. I am, under a doctor's supervision for medication. um, and yeah, that's helped immensely. um, and being medicated and being able to establish kind of a baseline level of functionality just for my general day-to-day life has then helped me layer additional habits on top of that. So things like, always having clean clothes in my drawers and not like literally running out of clothes and having to do a bunch of laundry like immediately. That's helpful in establishing other habits on top of that, because I know I always have clothes in the drawers. So then, in the morning, I can always pick out an outfit first thing. I get up and I can pick out my outfit. So that's a habit right there that I can start to build. I have time to make my bed because I don't have to be digging around for clothes that I can wear. Things like that. And setting habits in place is still a struggle. But again, coming back to that sort of thought of meeting yourself where you are and being kind, and sort of knowing where you're at right now and not trying to push past those limitations too quickly, has been helpful in helping me set habits. So are there things I would love to have habits for that I don't right now? Yeah, of course. But are there other habits that I've been sort of curating and strengthening slowly over the past year? Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of things I have accomplished. I'm going slowly about it, slowly adding more things, not trying to do everything at once. And so just going really, really slowly has been helpful, and meeting myself where I am and strengthening the habits that I already have. So things like making sure that I never leave clothes on the bedroom floor, like dirty clothes on the bedroom floor, clothes go in the hamper, that kind of thing. So very small thing, very simple thing, but something that can be easily strengthened over time. Yeah, even as a dad with multiple years of experience, you're always learning new things daily. Exactly. Yeah, and Debdi, last thing there, having a concrete diagnosis by a medical professional is helpful in itself, right? Because now you know what you're dealing with. Now it's not some nameless, um, unknowable thing. You're like, okay, this has boundaries. This has um, clinical traits that I can fully understand and that I can work within, right? So yeah, just knowing the diagnosis is helpful. I did a lot of research on ADHD once I was actually diagnosed, and it explained so much. And then that helped me learn how to deal with it, right? It helped me get less frustrated at myself when I couldn't do something or couldn't remember to do something. So like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's because my brain isn't wired to do it that way. I can't just, remember to, you know, I don't know. I can't just remember to put dishes in the dishwasher. I have to come up with a framework to remind me to do that, whether it's notes or I just need a little extra help. I need outside motivation to do these things. Copperly says, I took your advice and started attending Banky Brunch. That's awesome. Yay. I have yet to work up the nerve to speak. That's fine. Having a discussion about anxiety would be super helpful. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. I'm going to catch up with chat here and then we can circle back. Um, Say one says, I've been on the job hunt this whole entire year, no bite. Yeah. So say one, back to your thing where you're doing this job and you're not getting paid. Another thing, okay, it's up to you. Of course, I think you should be getting paid. You should be having those hard conversations with this leadership at whoever you're working for. But at the very minimum, you should also be making connections with them. You should at least be leveraging them to make other connections in the industry to get you that paid role. So at the very least, you can go to them and say, you know, I think you can bring it as a performance ask to say like, hey, look at all my contributions, right? Look at my GitHub history. Look at what I've been doing for you guys. I want a recommendation from you for, XYZ. I see, on LinkedIn, I can see you're connected with so and so, or on Twitter, I see that that so and so from a company liked your posts. Um, I want you to give me a recommendation to them, and I want hook me up with them so I can have a coffee chat. I want a connection with them. You can see my passion for this industry. Like let's help me get my foot in the door as compensation for all the work I'm doing for you. You need to make this a two-way street. However you do it, whether it's I would love for it to be monetary and networking, but if it's going to be one or the other, like you got to get something out of it. Okay? Do that for me. Talk to them. You got to get some reciprocation. Otherwise, they are going to treat you like a doormat and they're going to view you as such. They are not going to respect you if you don't ask for what you are worth. If you don't set your own worth, they're going to set your worth for you and they are going to set your worth as cheap. All right. I'm a little spicy here, but that makes me angry when people do that to others and when people let that be done to themselves because I know you're worth more and you know you're worth more. So establish that respect with them by asking for it. Okay. I hope you can do that. Yeah. Respect is not given, it's earned. And so you are doing unpaid work thinking that you're earning that, but all you're earning is you're cementing that belief from them that they can make you do whatever they want. Okay? And I know you're worth more than that. Okay. Brownskill says, hi, mine. I'm at class 8 where we start the layout. I want to ask you, how do I put the sizes of the element when I put the height property with percentages on an element, but nothing happens. So I don't know how to do the layouts. Okay, so in doing layouts, when you're first learning how to do like CSS and size boxes, my suggestion would be always make sure that you are putting colored outlines on your boxes. So give them a border. So give each of your box elements, each of your sections, each of your divs, give them a border with a color and make each one a different color. Because my guess is that you have some kind of you have something slightly out of order So when you're setting those percentages, you're setting them on maybe another element that doesn't, like you're setting them on child elements of a parent where that parent doesn't have any size. So it doesn't matter what percentage you apply because it's going off of a parent that's set at zero. So 100% of zero is zero, right? So make sure that every single element, when you're first getting started, all your parents, all your children, give them a border with a color. And then you'll truly be able to see where everything's at on the page, and you'll be able to figure out what's going wrong with your sizing. So try that. And then play, and once you've done that, once you've given everything a color, then play around with the sizing. If percentages aren't working, try pixels. Now you might not want it to be in pixels at the end, but if you're changing things, if you know, set things as pixels, increase the size, decrease the size, see what happens when you do that. And then you can switch it back to another unit once you've kind of got things figured out where everything's at. So tinker around with the units that you're using, see if that's the problem, give everything a color, get every single box a color, and then you can take the colors off when you're done. Memento Mori says, if you guys do have free time, always practice on your behavioral and technical questions. Yeah. I've been interviewing a lot since all the mass layoffs, and I've gotten better. Fantastic. Still not perfect. Yeah, practice really does make perfect. So that's partially why I'm on stream here today. Like I say, I'm still, my shoulder's still recovering. You know, I just did an hour and a half of another conversation on Discord about anxiety. And I could have just said, I'm not streaming again. But that would be 3 weeks without me being live here in front of you all. And part of it is consistency for me. I need to, I need to keep this habit. We were talking about habits earlier. Um, a very common thing with ADHD people, and I'm curious of other folks out there if you've experienced this. Folks with ADHD, we're very good at convincing ourselves um, that we have an excuse not to do something. We will rationalize the hell out of like not having to do something, even if it's something we might actually want to do, something that is fun for us. We will absolutely do mental gymnastics to not have to do it because it's effort. And effort is hard. Our brains literally don't make the right types of chemicals to be quote unquote motivated to do that sort of thing, to do a task. We don't get those mental rewards from doing the task. And so um, for me, it's like, okay, I've been off stream for 2 weeks now. That's a much longer break than I normally take. I normally only take one break per month. So instead of taking a third week off, I got to be on stream today because I got to keep this going. I can't lose this habit. This is very important, and it's something that I value, and it's something that I enjoy doing to be up here in front of you all. So we're talking about habits. It's consistency. You can't let the excuses win. Copperly says my head is full of bees, and it makes it tough to even pursue a proper diagnosis. Copperly, yeah. After first suspecting that I had ADHD, it took me a solid year before I was able to actually get into, and it wasn't because of like appointment delays or anything like that. It took me like a solid year to finally ask my doctor about potentially getting diagnosed, just because I kept forgetting. Um, I would remember up until I got to the doctor, and then I would forget during the appointment. Um, I would forget for months at a time, like that I should even think about this. Yeah, definitely a struggle. It took me a year, maybe even longer. It might have been 2 years to even like get in there. It was a long time, I'll tell you that. After I was pretty darn sure that I had it. So yeah, you're not alone there. The important thing is to like, how about right now, Copper Lily? How about right now? Um, Figure out when your next doctor's appointment is and stick a note somewhere where you're going to see it, like in your car or in your purse, in your wallet. I don't know what you carry, but something that you carry in your cell phone, like, on your home screen of your cell phone, something like that, to ask your doctor for help on this. So yeah, go ahead and do that right now. I know you're watching the stream, but like now, otherwise you won't do it because your brain's like mine and I know you won't. Yeah, Deputy said what you said about being kind to yourself, it definitely starts with a medical diagnosis and knowing we aren't neurotypical and have more realistic goals and have better framing than, oh no, I can't do it since I'm such a failure. Exactly. Yeah. So many of us we were punished. Um, either, in childhood by family figures or in school by teachers or in social situations or work situations. We were punished because why can't you just a lot of a thing I heard a lot when I was younger is why can't you just pick up your clothes, why can't you just um, remember to return your library books, um, why can't you just brush your teeth, like it's so simple. And so then you're told that, well, it's simple, so there must be something wrong with me because I can't do this thing. Why can't I do a simple thing? So you turn that anger inward, and it becomes even more self-destructive. Um, and so, yeah, knowing that it's okay, there's actually something like my brain is wired differently is actually very relieving to hear. It doesn't mean that it invalidates the struggle. It just means it can be framed a different way inside your head. Snarfin says, one pixel solid blue. I lived for this shorthand when learning the layouts. Absolutely. Yeah. I did everything like solid red, solid blue, solid yellow, solid green. I did all of my divs, all of my sections when learning the box model, CSS, everything a different color. It looked like a, circus clown show, but, it helps you learn. Memento says, the more you talk about your ADHD, the more I think I may need to get tested. My friends jokingly used to say I have it and I ignored them, but the symptoms you have said sound pretty similar to mine. Yeah. Um, a common sort of boomer complaint that I hear is, oh, everybody has ADHD nowadays. Well, a lot of us do. Um, we were just very good at masking it. So, yes, I did have all these symptoms as a child and as an adult, but unfortunately, I was also the stereotypical sort of gifted kid. So, just naturally pretty good in elementary school and high school. And also I was a nice kid too. I was a little bit of a doormat, and so the teachers really liked me. So they would forgive some of my transgressions or forgive a lot of my forgetfulness when I would forget to do an assignment, or I was more likely to be given a pass. Oh, okay, that's fine. It's okay. You'll do the next one or whatever, because the teachers liked me. And so they thought they were helping, but unfortunately that just meant that I could push it, things got pushed under the rug for a long time. So yeah, you can always, so I was really nervous going into my evaluation because I thought, I'm pretty sure that I have this, but what if I go through the whole evaluation process and I don't? There was that sort of that fear going into it. But then I sort of was conscious of it and reframed it and said, wait a minute. Yeah, okay. What if I go through this and I don't have ADHD? Then they're going to tell me what else is. They're going to tell me what else is going on, or they're going to give me some resources to, to help, regardless of what it is, regardless of the word. They're going to give me some help for this, and so yeah, it was definitely worth doing. Unfortunately, because I live in America, it wasn't cheap, so I know that's a limitation for some people. But it depends on what route you go to. So I ended up going the professional psychiatrist route, but there are other routes too. Not all diagnoses require that full evaluation in that way. So yeah, I can't speak for everyone there. Mashuka says, was one of the symptoms thinking about other stuff as you were doing something, like pretty much autopilot whatever task you're doing and thinking about something else? So again, I'm not a medical health professional. I can't diagnose or treat any particular condition. All I can speak about is personal experiences. So a little disclaimer there. Can't diagnose anybody. Um, I would either find myself doing one of two things. I would either be completely hyper focused on a particular task to the point where I would not eat, um, or I would, ignore other things I should be doing or things that people had asked me to do. Your mom asks you to, can you please vacuum the living room, while I'm out? And it would take me 20 minutes, right? If that, 5 minutes to vacuum the living room. But I would be reading a book and I would be so into that book that I just wouldn't do that one thing that she asked me to do because I was just so focused. Um, One of the other things though is the inability to focus on something. So sit down to do homework, but I really really want to not do homework. And so I'd be reading the New York Times crossword that's on the table as well, and not completely, even though doing the homework would only again take 20 minutes. um and I could knock it out and then I could go do whatever I wanted. I would just sit there in front of that homework for hours and just not be able to do it. So there's varying levels of intensity, I guess, of the ability to focus. Yeah, so barriers to health, barriers to proper diagnoses are many, right? Especially in the United States. Lack of primary care physicians, lack of health insurance, that kind of thing, definitely. Um, your there may be low cost resources in your area, I don't know. um, there may be free online resources that you can utilize as well. I would have recommended URAD in the past. Unfortunately, they are currently disbanded because of the whole nonprofit uh, catastrophe that took place a couple months ago. But I'm sure, hopefully, there'll be another organization that will take their place, or hopefully URAD can get started up again to offer free mental health services online. But yeah, I know that's a big challenge. And for those who have no access to any of those, I luckily there are tons of online resources out there, but I know how frustrating it can be to not have a professional diagnosis. Deputy says, "Why can't you just code?" Yeah, yeah, stuff like that, right? It's we got to be kind to ourselves too. Why can't we just, why can't I just sit down and read this coding tutorial or read this documentation? Well, maybe I need to reframe it in a different way. Maybe I need to, for me anyway, like I can't just sit down and read documentation, or I can't just sit down and read something theoretical. I have to turn it into something practical and concrete, that's actually has a practical application. So instead of reading the documentation for a new language, I have to actually just straight up build something in that language, um, to give it meaning, to give me some interest in it. Which is why I often explore new frameworks with you right here on stream with you guys. Things like Tailwind or React. I will be teaching you at the same time I'm teaching myself, because that's how I learn best. I learn best through application. So understanding your learning style is really helpful too, because school, like standardized education, college, high school, tends to force everybody into the same type of learning box where you read a thing or you listen to a lecture, you take notes on it, and then you are given a standardized test on memorization of those facts that you learned. And for people with alternative learning styles, like actually, practical application like me, hands-on type stuff, it doesn't work very well. All that memorization, the theoretical, the rote practice just doesn't work very well. And so yeah, understanding your own learning styles and how you can teach yourself using your preferred learning style, is really important. Bob Maloney says, I used to forget to return my library books and I worked at the library. Did they charge you for it? Did you get late fees? Yoda says, I don't procrastinate as much on tasks after improving my process using Pomodoro. Pomodoro is great. Yeah. If you're not aware, Pomodoro is breaking tasks down into timed chunks. So you work for 20 minutes, you get 5 minute break, you work for another 20 minutes, you get a 5 minute break. And those breaks can vary based on your capacity, your ability to focus. It could be, 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, right? um, I know in my personal experience, I sometimes have a hard time breaking tasks down into manageable chunks. Um, I want to, if I sit down and do a task, I want to do the entire thing, even if it takes me 6 hours, which is not healthy, right? I will skip meals. Like if I, especially home improvement tasks, like once I get started on a task, I will work myself into like I'll just not eat. I won't, drink enough water. I'll get dehydrated. I'll end up with a headache. I just won't. I have a hard time leaving something unfinished. And so, yeah, breaking things down into forced time blocks is very helpful. Memento mori. Thank you. Hey, God, welcome. Good to see you again. Memento says, are we tackling SQL questions or more DSAs today? Genuinely curious since I've been grinding SQL 50 in interview query. That's awesome. Glad you're doing that. Probably not going to be doing that today. No, I'm going to be chilling today mostly. We're having a great conversation so far. I'm enjoying that. Um, yeah, probably nothing super strenuous today. We might hit some code wars if the conversation kind of slows down. Then we'll hit up some code wars. But we're kind of flip flopping the usual format. Normally we do project or task first and then conversation after. But I wanted to start with the conversation today because we were having a great. I just got out of a great conversation about anxiety in the previous focus group, and wanted to continue that here. Yoda says, sometimes I wonder how much I'm being held back by not being on meds. How much of an impact has it had on you? I will say that medication is, I know I kind of saw it as like the holy grail. Like once I get this, everything will be perfect. It's magic. It's the silver bullet. It's everything will be fine. And that's not true. Um, Improvement? Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I'm not going to lie. Being medicated has helped me has given me like a buffer, like a sort of an improved baseline for functioning. Has it made everything perfect and meant that I can do everything I want to do all the time? No, absolutely not. But it has improved things, but it's not a magic bullet. There is a lot um, that you can accomplish yourself with. It's harder. It's absolutely harder without medication. But there are a lot of things you can do to, again, meet yourself where you are currently and come up with strategies to learn better and code better within the capabilities that you currently have. Yeah. Engineer says, even having access to resources, the struggle to overcome anxiety and reach out for help is really tough. I have coverage through my job, but I've still not reached out to find a therapist. I feel crippled by anxiety and shame. Yeah. And I think that's not uncommon. The feeling that if you acknowledge your problem and reach out for assistance, then everybody's going to know, right? You're going to be the person with that issue, right? It's going to be, once you acknowledge it, then it's real. But and this is difficult. I'm not going to say, that this is something that you can just go right out and do. But I think it's important to think about um, how what's going to be what is going to be different if you don't, right? Nothing's going to change or improve if you don't take this step, right? You're each day you're going to be in the same position where you are now. um, Anxiety is always self-fulfilling, right? Anxiety wants to keep you where you are. Anxiety wants to make it so you're unable to step out of a little box, and that little box might be small and dark and uncomfortable, but there's so many unknowns outside the door. And so what made me finally kind of reach out for help with some of those things is thinking, do I really want to live like this forever? Do I really want this feeling, this tightness in my chest, these heart palpitations, this just gross feeling all the time forever? Absolutely not. No. If I had a broken leg, wouldn't I do anything to get assistance to make it stop? If I had a cut on my arm, wouldn't I immediately go and get it fixed up? Yeah. Well, why is my brain any different? Shouldn't I go and get some help for my brain? Um, and so reframing that and saying, okay, there are people that literally are like brain doctors that that know how to not fix everything right away, but that know how to help heal your brain. And so you got to make that connection with them, otherwise they're not going to be able to help you. um, and it was a difficult conversation to have with my doctor when I initially reached out for help with anxiety. But I was, receiving assistance within a couple weeks. When I had some episodes of really acute anxiety at times, um, and this was separate from the ADHD thing. And I utilized my employer assistance program and got some help with that. And it definitely gave me some better coping strategies. It improved my situation. And yeah, it was difficult to do. It was difficult to get over that hurdle. But what finally convinced me was, do I want to feel like this forever? No, I absolutely do not. So I'm going to take some, maybe a small initial increase in discomfort to save me from a potential lifetime of slightly lesser discomfort. Macy says, talking about Pomodoro, didn't Leon do 1 minute of work and then 59 minutes of relax? Yeah, I love that Leon shared that. That's amazing. So Leon has some mental health challenges that he's talked about before, some very specific diagnoses. And he said that when he originally started doing Pomodoros, he did 1 minute of activity followed by 59 minutes of like not that activity, like just doing other things. And then again, started then back to 1 minute of doing the thing, followed by 59 minutes of break. And then slowly easing that up over days and days and days, which I thought was amazing. Yeah, go get some water. I'm going to hydrate right now, actually. I have some tea here. Bombo says, I used to carry around books I'd borrowed from my mom in my backpack for months before I'd remember to take them out and give them back to her. Oh, yeah, my backpack was an absolute cesspool of forgotten items, crumpled up homework assignments, old library books jangling around. You should have seen my locker, man. It was literally crammed full of garbage. I couldn't even, like, I would have to shove my backpack in there, like physically shove my backpack in so I could close my locker because it was chocked full of just the most random crap you could think of. Papers, books, folders, planners, that type of thing. Yep. Snarfin says, uh, starting 100 devs is what made me reach out to talk to my doctor about my anxiety. That's awesome. Hadn't realized how bad it really was until I started medication. Don't know if I would have made it through without the constant rush and dread I felt. Apparently, isn't the normal way to live. Yeah, isn't that funny? How not everyone feels like a constant underlying sense of dread and generalized fear. Isn't that wild? Yeah, it's weird that when you don't feel it anymore, how different things become. Um, and it's not to say that you know I'm. It's I don't know. It's not to say that like people can't function when they feel that way. Like people with anxiety absolutely can function. I did for a long time. I was successful, um, but things can be better with with treatment and management. Hey, sorry, Ellipse Henry. Thank you so much for the subscription. You get the special sub screen. Thank you so much for subscribing. You're very cool. I appreciate it so much. I hope you're having a great day. Deputy says anxiety is one of the first worst things to deal with, especially when it starts manifesting itself as physical symptoms. Yeah, I used to get like chest tightness and you know heart palpitations and that type of thing, sweats. Yeah, definitely. It was sort of acute when I was in a work environment that was very stressful, that was not conducive to my mental health. Working in a windowless room in a really high stress environment just isn't great in the long term. KR says, any advice on how I can manage my frustration with CSS? I was trying to build my portfolio. I'm a designer. Oh, very cool. But I can't design my own portfolio or other websites because I don't know how to make them look like I would like to. And looking at websites that I like, it seems like they always use no code apps and trying to do front end mentor challenges. I don't even know how to start. Yeah. So my advice would be to just get something up and running. So think about what is the minimum that you want to have in a portfolio? You want to have information about you. You want to have information about what you worked on, and you want to have information about how to contact you, right? So start with just getting that into a working website. So the actual functional bits that people need to know about you. Don't worry about what it looks like. Just get that up and running. Content. Get the content up and running first and then style it out. Because once you have the content on the page, then you can slowly start adding some stylistic elements, and building on each other and getting those working. But the most important thing is that you have a portfolio and that you're showing off your past work. um, so yeah, obviously we want it to look, we all would want a fantastic looking, crazy perfectly styled portfolio right out the gate. But that's something that I struggled with for a long time. I just didn't have a portfolio at all, or I didn't have a personal web page at all because I wanted it to look a certain way and I couldn't make it look that certain way. And so I just didn't do it at all. And eventually I was just like, nope, screw this. I am going to make something that contains really only the elements that I want, but it's going to be the best darn built website that I can possibly build. And so what I ended up with was mindwolf.com, which looks extremely simple, but it has everything that you could possibly want about me. And if we do a quick inspect here, quick lighthouse, we got 100%, baby. Well, 96 on best practices, but that vacillates between 96 and 100. It doesn't seem to matter. So excellent lighthouse scores, which means excellent SEO. So the important thing is to just get it out there, and then you can come back and tweak it later. Yeah, eventually you just got to do it, right? So it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to exist. That what they always say is perfect is the enemy of good, and I love that quote. Just get something out there, get something on the page, get it working, and that's where you start. Yeah. Deputy says your story resonates with me so much, since I went from getting straight A's in high school uh, to basically failing my classes in college. I did not fail my classes in college, but I absolutely did struggle. Yeah. um, my mental health issues caught up with me. Yeah. So for a lot of folks, mid 20s is when mental health issues just tend to manifest. I don't know if it's a genetic thing, if it's something about the way our brains develop or whatever. But yeah, it's like college just happens to coincide with when like your brain is so susceptible to just having a major malfunction. And it's a really bad combination in a lot of ways. Yep. Yeah, and oh, and back to the portfolio thing. So, uh, building that portfolio, when I actually finally did it, it took like less than 2 hours, just because I got something on the page. I bought the domain, so start to finish, building that portfolio took like 2 hours, and then I was done with it, and then it's out there, and then I could share it with other people. So, is it perfect? No, but is it pretty good? Yeah, and that's fine. Yep. And when you have time and are more creative, then you add on. Deputy says, "Oh God, I've been procrastinating on my portfolio for 4 months. Is the universe telling me I just need to do it?" Yeah, it is. Build something. Start with just building out the HTML structure of it. Get the content that you want, and then yeah, you can add more to it later. But do you have to? No. Get something on the page. And Leon often says to start with a template. Sometimes this isn't in all cases, but sometimes starting with a template can actually be more difficult because like the template doesn't have the exact elements that you want, and so then you're trying to, shoehorn more elements into this template, and that's difficult because it wasn't built for that. And so it just depends. If you're really struggling with templates and getting it exactly right, ditch the whole thing and just build it out in HTML and see what you have and then add from there. And Drevska says, I hope you didn't let your hyper focus get the better of you for lighthouse purposes. No, it was fun getting it up to 100, but my main goal with the lighthouse thing was accessibility. So I wanted to get 100% accessibility score, to have my site be fully compatible with screen readers. Memento Mori says, what is that tool site extension? Never seen it before. Yeah, let's go back to that. It is called Lighthouse, and it's built into Google Chrome. So if you have Chrome, you have Lighthouse. So if you right click on any site, it doesn't matter what site it is. If you right click on it and you say inspect, just like if you were to going into the console or whatever, and then click the little arrows here, you can get to Lighthouse. And then for any site, you can generate a Lighthouse report, for mobile or desktop. And really, like, I just generally leave all these settings as they are. Um, and, you can test it for mobile, you can test it for desktop, and you can test it on all these different categories. So once you run it, then you can, click into each category, and it'll give you a detailed rundown of like what you passed, and what went well and what you could improve, and exactly how to improve it, which I think is pretty cool. It like really goes into detail. I'm like, okay, this is exactly why we dinged you, and this is what you could do better. So in my case, it doesn't like that my image here, isn't higher resolution. But if I increase the resolution of this image, then it actually does worse because it says, "Oh, your image is too big." So it's, damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I've just left it like this. But if you have things that you could do better, like for example, I'm not using like a full stack web app situation, so I can ignore all these things. But it is very detailed in its analysis. You can click on each thing, to see, okay, what did I do well? Um, what could I do better? That type of thing. It's a great tool. Hmm. Mai says, I can study for 3 hours straight, but my issue is listening to someone speaking. My mind wanders away if I feel like I don't understand what they are saying. I have to consciously remind myself to pay attention. I'm a little bit worried about this as I will be starting my job next week where they don't speak English. So I really need to listen to understand. Any advice on how to increase my attention span? Yeah, so that's difficult too, right? Sometimes it's hard to listen to someone for long periods of time. What I would suggest is while they are speaking, start formulating what questions you want to ask them for more clarification. So set yourself, and you can set this your like this number yourself, but say, all right, I want to ask this person X number of questions, at the end of their instruction or whatever. Like I want to be able to ask them 3 intelligent questions at the end of their instruction. So you need to be listening, right, to figure out what questions to ask. So that will help you try to stay engaged and say, all right, did I really understand what they just said, or do I need to turn that into one of my questions? Um, so start thinking about, okay, how am I going to reciprocate in this conversation? I need to listen so I can reciprocate and ask them questions in return. So that's where you can start. And we kind of talked about this a little bit in the anxiety group the focus group that I did. When folks have trouble in conversations, and this applies to folks with ADHD as well as anxiety, um, a good place to when we have trouble with conversations, we tend to focus inward, right? We're thinking about what am I doing with my hands? Or am I standing weird? Do I have a weird expression on my face? We tend to focus on ourselves, which means that we aren't reciprocating to the other person in the conversation, which causes them to become more distant, which causes things to become more awkward, and then the conversation falls apart. And so, a good place to start if you want to get better at having conversations is to learn how to. Ooh, there's a really loud sound outside. No, I don't know what that was. Sorry. It was really loud. Some folks have fireworks in the area and stuff like that. But um, yeah, so anyway, a good way to get better at having conversations is to learn how to listen. So as they're speaking, you should be trying to actively sort of engage with the points that they're saying. And maybe it's to ask questions, or maybe it's just to figure out how to respond once they finish their sentence, right? Instead of focusing on, do I have a weird look on my face, or are my hands doing something strange? You should be thinking, okay, how can I reciprocate and show them that I'm listening and hearing what they're saying? So active listening is a great way to do that. It's a little mechanical where you say like, so I hear you saying XYZ. That's a little bit sort of robotic, but if you need the help, it's a great place to start. And also when you're starting a new job, um, people are going to love it if you can ask those type of intelligent questions. They're going to absolutely love you if you can be like, so you mentioned XYZ, and I guess I'm wondering, and then you ask a specific question about that specific thing. They're going to love that. Snarfin says, man, my poor portfolio needs to be updated pretty bad. My MongoDB also shut down on my project, so I really need to redo all that. Yeah. And I mean, the simpler you make your portfolio, the easier it is to update, right? So there is that to think about too. The more complicated you make your portfolio, the more likely it is to, have something break or be really hard to update. So, Rocco says, what tool did you use to make your logo? I used, what did I use? Like uh, it wasn't a Twitch logo generator, but it was like a Streamlabs logo generator that no longer exists. So actually, I cannot like replicate this logo. I have like one copy of the master image file, and I can't. I can't ever like regenerate it. So I've actually been thinking for a while about actually having a professional artist redraw the image as like a high quality vector, and give me a bunch of sizes and formats, and move the lettering around and stuff like that, because I only have one copy and it's like a PNG, so I can't change anything about it. And I'm not an artist. So if anybody knows any good artists that could help me with that, let me know. I'm happy to pay to have that redrawn. And I'd prefer not to use something like Fiverr. I'd love to pay somebody what they're worth. So I'd love to pay more, is what I'm saying. Memento says, I wanted to really practice React since I used Angular a lot at work. So I learned a lot building my portfolio. Yeah, it helps if you're passionate about something and you can channel that passion into your project. Yeah. Having enthusiasm for something always helps you get it done faster. Snarford says, I agree. I had trouble editing the pre-made templates, so I found a sweet Vite tutorial for a portfolio and customize it. Yeah, sometimes simpler is better. Some templates can be like overly complicated and just hard to work with. Yep. Trying to modify a template, not knowing where things are is a nightmare. Yep. That's been my experience. Oh, thank you, Mr. Friend. Glad to have you here. KR says, is it really small? No, I have a larger version of the image file. I just put the small version here. I just put the small version here. That was just me tweaking my Lighthouse score. So yeah, I have a better quality version, but I only have the one. Like the one, but it's just different sizes. So would love to have a full vector version of it, that's infinitely sort of modifiable. Copper Lily says, I have trouble reading because the words trigger memories or inspire fantasies. And so I end up daydreaming and not absorbing the material. Absolutely, been there. Or I go off on a rabbit trail looking up etymologies because I find language fascinating. I love etymology as well, the study of words and their origins, finding the root, um, figuring out all the proper usage and that type of thing. Yeah, is a lot of fun for me. Definitely, I do have a hard time just sitting, like I said, just sitting down and like reading documentation. If I am not immediately needing or able to apply that in some like concrete way, like I can't just sit down and read theory. I need to be able to immediately turn around and like use it for something I'm working on or something I want to do, because I don't have the ability to sort of generate that interior motivation. I need some form of outside motivation, whether that's you guys, you all help me out a lot, because if I know I'm working on something for a Twitch stream, I got to get it done so it's ready on time. Basically, streaming helped me get through 100 devs when I was actually doing the cohort, because I knew like I had to focus. I had to like get things done in time so that I could immediately turn, like I had to learn things in time so that I could turn around and immediately teach them to you all. You guys have, I've said it a lot, but you guys have no idea how many streams during like the 100 devs cohort that I would literally learn something like the previous hour and then immediately turn around and be teaching it. Or literally be learning a concept as I was explaining it to you all. Oh, thank you, Memento Mori. I appreciate that. Thank you, KR. Mr. Friend says, I have a problem. I can't figure out if I should eat soup or sandwich. ¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both? Yeah, I don't really, I'm not saying that people on Fiverr don't do good work, but I feel like it's a race to the bottom, as far as fair pay, right? I don't prevent anybody from going to Fiverr to make some money. Everybody's got to make a dollar, right? But I feel like the overall system is predatory in that it's incentivizing people to charge less than they're worth just to get the client. That happens a lot. Well, I see that mentality a lot in like the freelancing space, and that people are afraid, as web developer freelancers, people are afraid to charge their worth, and to ask customers for the type of money they should be paid. They ask, oh, should I go on Fiverr? That type of thing. And no, you should. If you ask the customer for your worth, we were talking about this before. If you ask the customer for your worth, they're going to respect you more, right? If you let them dictate how much they want to respect you, they're going to lowball it, both financially and like morally, with the level of respect that they give you. They're always going to lowball you every time. You need to be the one to set that bar for them, and then they will play off of that. Starfin says, I sometimes feel like the live cohort of 100 devs was a fever dream. I was always in your streams. So, yeah, you were. So much info constantly. It's a wonder I made it through the year. Same here, definitely. Somehow we did. But I'm excited. It's going to be starting up again soon. I'm going to be right back in the mix with you all. Theoretically, May is what we're shooting for, especially if you weren't in the last huddle. We did get a fiscal sponsor. And by fiscal sponsor, that doesn't mean somebody giving us money. It just means a place for the 100 Devs organization to put the money it already has. So to be like legally compliant and tax compliant and all that good stuff, right? Gotta have lawyers and taxes and all that sort of thing. And so having a place to put that money meant that now we can actually proceed with taking client funds and that type of thing. We have several clients lined up. So currently, if all goes well, sometime in May, hoping to get started on cohort 3. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope you all are as well. And if you're wondering what the heck is Mind Wolf talking about, what is this 100 devs. What is a cohort? Let me give you some information. I think that's my command. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, check that link. It is a completely free, and by free, I literally do mean free. It sounds like a scam, but free is free in this case. Um, Software Development Bootcamp teaches you how to become a web developer from literally no coding knowledge all the way up through building full stack applications and getting a job. So unlike most boot camps, it does not kick you out with the ability to build a tic-tac-toe game and then be like, yeah, bye, and then charge you $10,000. The community helps you all the way through getting a job and beyond, which is why I'm still here, and still contributing to 100 devs all the time, because it is a fantastic program and it means that you don't have to pay 10 grand. Absolutely, Interplanet. Yeah, it's extremely valuable in that way, in the sense that, again, talking about predatory industries, right? I feel like the boot camp industry in general is extremely predatory, because it's preying on people who feel like they have no other option, right? They may not have a formal college degree. They're probably in a job where they feel extremely unsatisfied. They are struggling financially, and they see this as, they see a boot camp as their only way out into this tech world that they want to be in. So why the hell are we charging these people 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand for a shot at a place in the industry? It's just bizarre to me. So why can't we do it for free? Is the philosophy of 100 devs. Why the hell should we not value the time that you are putting in, as a participant? So why can't we just give them all the same information and more for free? Yeah, Massey says a boot camp business appears to copy a university business. Yeah, I feel like boot camps are even worse in a way, because universities at least have like a certain, built-in networking component. At universities, you're often young. I'm not saying everybody that goes to university is young, but university students are often younger. There's lots of organic opportunities for networking clubs. You're maybe in a fraternity or sorority, you're making those kind of lifelong connections. Whereas in a boot camp, it's just a pipeline. It's just a conveyor belt. It spits you. It chews you up and it spits you out. So why should you have to pay 10 grand for that? Exactly. Kara says, why are they so expensive? Yeah. And it's because they can, right? They have a they have, I don't want to say a captive audience, but an audience that is generally somewhat desperate, right? You're in a situation, you want to be out of that situation, and you see this as your only way out. So they can charge whatever the hell they want. So let's not charge anything. We're going to charge whatever we want, and what we want is nothing, right? Let's do it. Mr. Friend said, Maya Wolf, how do I learn to ask good questions? So I'm going to ask you a question, Mr. Friend. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? By good questions, are you referring to questions in an interview? Are you referring to questions in a social setting? Do you have any more specifics that you can give me on what type of questions you'd like to get better at asking? Sagama says, I find tech meetups in your area are the best ops for networking. Yeah, tech meetups are great. If you have them, if you're in a major metro area, there's going to be tech meetups near you. There's going to be meetups online. Another thing I would suggest is that if you want to improve your networking, it doesn't have to necessarily be a tech meetup. It could be a meetup for a hobby that you enjoy. Um, a lot of tech professionals enjoy hiking. A lot of tech professionals enjoy things like tabletop gaming, D&D, movies, trivia. Those types of things can be great places, again, to meet people organically and make connections, and have people like you and want to do you a little favor, right? Want to hook you up. Yeah, volunteering is great too. I've only been volunteering, so I started volunteering for the local library recently. If you caught my last few streams, I'm actually working on a volunteer application for the local library, and I've already made some amazing connections, like the director of the library, the directors of several local organizations, like they themselves have a ton of connections in the area. So I've already made some incredible networking connections without really trying, just by being present and contributing to this volunteer opportunity. Coffee club, sure, yeah. Coffee shops, book clubs. Hmm. No worries, Maya. Thank you for coming. It was great to have you here. Kara says, what do you think about those websites that teach you to code at a monthly or yearly price? So, my opinion there is all of the information that they are going to share with you is available for free in places like Free Code Camp. I would highly suggest Free Code Camp, which is also genuinely free. Um, so, if all you want to do is learn how to code and you don't really care about the community or the networking aspects of it, then absolutely don't pay for that. Go to Free Code Camp. There's and you know yeah, it's sometimes we pay for something because we feel like by paying for it we're getting somehow more value in return, when that's really not the case. Um, it's more, we feel like we're doing more because we're putting money in, but that doesn't mean at all that we're going to get anything extra out. Having to pay money for something doesn't at all mean that it's going to be higher quality. Ah, machi. Okay. Did I say that right? Machi? Sorry for the mispronunciation. I appreciate you correcting me. Or machi? Okay. I'll try to do better there. More or less. Okay. Forgive my Americanness. I am a pretty much a monolingual person. I speak a little Spanish and I can read Spanish fairly well, but uh, us Americans are not exposed to many languages, unfortunately, as children. We should be, but we're not. Okay, catching up on chat. I lost my place there. Ah, that's Chris. That is a fantastic point. Chris also adds that when we're talking about paid boot camps versus universities, so there is far less legal regulation on paid boot camps versus colleges and universities. Yeah, so for a university to be like legit, it has to be accredited, right? There's a accreditation board that has to evaluate it and make sure it's meeting certain standards. Boot camps, yeah, they don't have that. They can basically do whatever the hell they want and charge you whatever they want for it. So yeah, there's that. I hope you're doing well, Chris. Great to see you. Mr. Friend says, Mind Wolf, I want to get better at asking questions about information coming into my field of perception while learning. Okay, so I'm not quite sure whether you're talking about like people telling you things, or asking questions about like things you're reading. But in general, again, I'm gonna emphasize like active listening. So trying to think about questions while you're being told something. So rather than waiting until the end and thinking, okay, what questions should I ask? Literally, while they are speaking, for each sentence that they're saying, digesting it and thinking, okay, do I need to turn this into a question? Um, and writing those questions down, like in the moment, can be helpful. It'll like having they say a sentence, you're like, okay, yeah, I understood that. The next sentence, you're like, I'm not sure about that. Immediately write that question down, and then you might not, maybe by the end you do understand it and you don't have to ask that question. But at the very least, you have it written down. And also making sure that your question is rephrasing what they said. So you can start out with a rephrasing of that question. So you could say something like, um, so I heard you say that, uh, you know, uh, that a SQL inner join is only going to return um, is only going to return rows matching the condition from both tables. So my question is, how do I add If I add a filter on table A, how does that filter get applied to the rows from table B? Can you talk a little bit more about that, exactly how that inner join works? So I started out with a rephrasing of what I thought I heard them say, which might not be correct. In this case, it was, but because I know SQL. But in general, you're rephrasing what they said, what you think you heard. And so if you heard it wrong, they're immediately going to correct you there and say like, "Oh wait, hang on. Let me say it again." And they'll probably say it in a different way, which might help with your understanding. And then then you actually ask the question that you have based on the way you heard what they said. I hope that makes sense. So essentially, you start out with a brief restatement of the thing you want to ask about, the thing that was unclear, and then you ask your question, and then that gives them some context around what you're asking. So instead, if I would have said something like, um, they waited till they finished talking, right? Waited till they finished talking, and then I would have said something like, "So how does the filter get applied?" They're going to have no context for what you're asking. But by giving them some context with the question, by saying, I'm referring specifically to inner join, specifically to this phrase that you said, and then stating my question, then that gives them the context that they need to frame the best response. And also, it gives them the ability to correct you if you've misinterpreted something that they said. Yeah, and I hear that, I see some laughter in the chat about that, but I that happens all the time. Folks asking questions, and I'm not saying necessarily here. You all are great about asking good questions, but I hear it a lot in verbal settings where folks will be like, because they have a thing in their head. They're very clear about what they're thinking about in their head, but when it comes out of their mouth, the question itself is very vague, and so then the person they're asking has to be like, are you referring to like this? Are you referring to that? What exactly are you talking about? And then it really kind of derails everything. Yeah. Yeah. Free Code Camp is really good. Absolutely, it is. Snarfin says, didn't Leon do a chat with Free Code Camp recently? Yes, Leon did. Leon is a big supporter of Free Code Camp. They did a podcast together. It was great. The founder of Free Code Camp and Leon did a podcast. It was great. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that pronunciation. Yes. Mmm. Memento Mori says, just got home and my Lighthouse score for my site is a 96. Best practices is a 56, and SEO is an 83, accessibility 56, 94 for accessibility, 56 for best practices. Yeah, so if you look in that Lighthouse score and you click on the things that it found, it will tell you how to improve that. So if you click like on each category, under each category, it's going to tell you exactly where you got dinged. Click on each of those things and it's going to tell you exactly what to fix. It's literally going to give you suggestions on what to do. So just follow the suggestions. KR says, really, I speak Spanish. English is my second language. I understand pretty much everything, but I can't speak it. It gives me really bad anxiety. Yeah, I've never been as good at speaking Spanish, definitely. I get tongue tied. I can't form the words all that well sometimes. I do practice though. I still practice. I don't often get the chance to, to practice it as much as I would like. But hey, Nomani, good to see you. Welcome. Hey, Colares, welcome. Rocker said, do we learn SQL in 100 devs? If no, do you recommend a good resource to learn? So in the upcoming cohort, there is going to be a SQL component. I can tell you that. Wink, wink. Uh, there's going to be a SQL component, definitely. And but it probably start out with learning MongoDB in 100 devs and then pivoting to SQL. Although I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like, exactly the progression. But there is going to be SQL. I have done several beginner intro to SQL streams right here on my YouTube channel. So exclamation point YouTube if you want a link to those. Just go to my channel, search SQL, and you will have several options. They're all beginner friendly, like I said. You'll so do the intro to SQL stream first if you're brand new to SQL, and then if you're like me and you like to apply what you're learning, we've also built several full stack applications with SQL. So if you want to then turn around and like actually build a working app, then you can do that as well by following my past streams. Too cautious of interrupting. Talking about asking questions. Yeah, and I'm not saying to ask a good question. I'm not saying interrupt the speaker. Um, what again? That's another reason why you should write the question down. Um, and then when you do have an opportunity to ask in whatever polite interval that is, uh, restate exactly what you're asking about. So exactly what portion of what they said that you're asking about. So I heard you say a few minutes ago that uh, I don't know, SQL is a declarative language. Um, can you tell me more about what that means? What do you mean when you say SQL is a declarative language? So again, starting by stating out exactly what it is that you're asking about, what component of what they said you're asking about, what you heard, and then what your question is. Yeah, SQL Bolt is great if you'd like to do sort of a self-taught SQL course. Yep, W3 Schools is great as well. They also have their own sort of start to finish SQL course. Yep, I agree with both of those suggestions. SQL Zoo is another one. Yeah, SQL Bolt, SQL Zoo, and W3 Schools. Sneak peek, yeah. No worries, Rocco's. Absolutely. Engineer Moore says, in group settings, I find that the question that I ask is a question others have too, but they are too worried or anxious to ask it. I've been told many times that me asking a question has helped others understand. Yeah. So you might feel like, you're the only one with a question. Um, but I just like Engineer Moore absolutely nailed it. You're probably not the only person. And if you are again able to follow that format where you're restating about what you're asking about, what you heard, and then your question, that will also help orient other people in the audience to say, oh yeah, I think I like to think, oh yeah, I heard that too, or no, I heard that completely differently. That'll help orient others in the audience to exactly what you're asking about. Debbie says, how long do you think it takes to take someone to pick up a language if they are practicing consistently? Yeah, it depends on whether you're talking about like a coding language or like a verbal, um, what's the word? I can't even think of my own language right now. So yeah, coding or verbal or written language, yeah, is the question. With coding languages, um, there's often, sets of logical rules that will apply across the board, right? You certain things like logical operators like and or if statements, else statements, um, loops, case statements, that kind of thing that are you know pretty standard across most languages. I started out knowing only SQL. And then I was able to actually transition pretty easily into JavaScript, even though JavaScript is very different than SQL, because some of those logical consistencies were the same. Things like, yeah, if statements, case statements, um, basic logic. Yeah. But I feel like with like human languages, um, depending on the language and depending on its origin, you might not have that common sort of footing, right? If I were to go learn something like Mandarin right now, I think I would struggle because I wouldn't have that. It's not a Latin root language. Whereas Spanish is a little easier because there are common roots, there's common things that are the same between both languages. Okay, are we back? Yeah? Yay, okay. I literally just had to unplug and replug my microphone. Like, what the heck? Was that Mandarin? Oh, jeez. There we go. I'm glad we're back. Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what happened there. That my microphone just decided to just, take a little break. Yeah, so who knows? All right, now I got to catch up with chat. Yeah, sorry about that. That was weird. Hopefully my microphone isn't dying. I actually love my microphone. It's a little it's a little blue snowball and it's great. I paid like 40 bucks for it like 3 years ago. But yeah, I was talking about setting sort of like time thresholds for yourself when you're learning a new language. I think is not a great way to go about it because everybody learns differently. Everybody has a different privilege of time. You might be caring for children or a relative, which means you might only have 5 minutes a day to spend learning. And so you should again pace yourself where you're at, and set your own pace rather than trying to live up to somebody else's pace. Mm, I like that memento mori. They say if you're gonna to ask a question, you should do your due diligence. Yes, so you can ask an intelligent question, but don't spend too long spinning your wheels. Yeah, my job we call it spinning your wheels, where you're just like you're stuck on something and you're spending a lot of energy, but you're not getting anywhere. And so don't spend too long doing that. Stop, formulate your question, and then ask. Um, yeah. So you start out by saying what you've done so far to show that you're not just like asking to ask, right? Be like, okay, so far I've found this, this, and this, but I'm still missing this thing that's going to get me where I need to go because I'm trying to do this. So yeah, great point. And Debbie says, "Oh no, she's telling us how to get a job quickly." When I was on mute. Yeah, and once you get that response to your question, you should always write that response down so you don't have to ask the question again. Yep. Yeah, with um don't confuse spinning your wheels with progress. Exactly. There is movement but no progress. Yep. Yeah, and I think it's important that when we're talking about learning and we're talking about time to spend learning and that type of thing, it's important that we don't judge other people who may be taking more time to learn something. There could be all sorts of challenges in their way and we should commend them for making the effort to learn, right, even if it's taking a long time. Now, and I say this with regards to like things you're not being paid for, right? I think there's a distinction there in that if you are learning something on your own time, then you can, set your own pace, be kind to yourself. If you are on the clock and your time is meant to be spent, learning something, then you should you know spend all of the time that you are being paid for to learn that thing learning that thing and asking appropriate questions whenever you encounter a problem, not spinning your wheels, that type of thing. So there's a distinction. If you're being paid to specifically to learn something like in a new job, then that's going to be your focus. But if you're learning it on your own time, then learn in whatever time you can allot to that. Yeah, and that's a great point. Memento says we were all at that point at one time. Everybody started out their first dev job. Everybody was a brand new dev at some point. And what your coworkers are going to want to do is get you up to speed so you can take some of the work off their plate. They want you to learn so that you can get up to speed and they can start giving you their tickets or some of their tickets, and take some work off their hands. And so they're going to want to answer your questions to get you up and running as fast as possible. Memento says, "I know I was terrified asking my senior dev for help and would spend hours researching. And he would be just like, dude, just ask me. Yep. I made that mistake in my one of my first jobs. It wasn't a dev job, but it was a data analyst job, so it was very similar to development work, working with technology. And I was given like my very first task, and I was eager beaver, wanted to please, um, and I spent like weeks on this. I was given the task, and I was like, I want to be, I want to show that I'm competent, that I have the skills, I can do this, I don't need help, you know, I can get up and running right away. I don't need to, I don't need an introduction. I don't need training. I can do this. I spent like, yeah, a couple weeks on this, 2 or 3 weeks. And, I didn't understand a lot of things. It was a brand new data structure, brand new employer. I didn't know anything about their processes or their data. And I was just like, I don't want to ask anything. I can figure it out. And I, prepared this whole thing, and I scheduled a meeting with my manager, and I was ready for her to be so impressed. And I demonstrated it for her, and she was like, I still remember like the silence. I still remember the silence at the end of that presentation. It was the worst silence I have ever experienced. And she was like, "Yeah, that wasn't what I wanted." And I was like, "Oh." So I wasted like 2 3 weeks, just basically getting nothing done, contributing nothing, doing things incorrectly, because I didn't want to ask questions. And so in that very meeting, I immediately addressed that, and I immediately said, "Okay, uh, I realized my mistake," and I said, "Okay, can we talk through this?" And so we talked through it, and then I said, and at the end of our meeting, I was still like deeply embarrassed, but I said, "Here's what I'm going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again." And I said this in front of my manager. I said, "Here's what I'm going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again. I'm going to ensure that I check in with you regularly. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to communicate with you. And if I'm not communicating with you, I want you to call me out on it." And after that, I never let it happen again. And since then, I've always made it, like a personal mission to ask questions if I don't understand something, because I never want to be that embarrassed again. It was just terrible. So, in order for me to not have that happen again, I always remember to ask questions and check in. My Memento Mori says, "I want to transition to BI roles so badly. I really love SQL and hope my dev skills are transferable for this move." Yeah, absolutely. I came from data analytics. I don't. I've said it before. I don't have any like professional coding background or anything like that from college. Um, Data analytics is I don't want to say an easy field to get into, but it is a very wide field. You can be in pretty much any industry, as long as you can show logical competency. So if you can, pull together logic, it helps if you're good with Excel. Because you might not use Excel on the regular, but your customers are darn sure going to be using Excel. And so if you're good at it, then you can give them good data that they can use. So yeah, it helps if you're good with Excel. I wouldn't suggest trying to get familiar with like one particular BI tool. There's several popular ones right now: Power BI, Tableau, that type of thing. But it's more about your general logic skills, SQL skills, Python skills. Those are helpful. Yeah, all that work must have been crushing for you. It absolutely was, but it was a great motivation to never let it happen again. Yeah, practicing data modeling and visualization while you finish up your portfolio. Yeah, that's great. Definitely. And if you're going for a back end role, it's a little harder to show off that work in a portfolio, right? And so you should be really prepared to talk about and describe, back end projects that you worked on and how you contributed to those. Yeah, being afraid to ask questions is usually the problem. Being able to correct yourself on the go like that after having a soul crushing moment. Oh, sorry, I skipped it. I skipped one there. Being afraid to ask questions is usually the problem. Like Leon said, fear is the mind killer. Yep. Yeah. That's a lovely quote from Dune. Definitely, fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death, because all it does is hold you back. But that's not to say that we should, berate ourselves for being afraid, right? I think that quote is easy to misconstrue, and that we might say, if we are afraid, we are weak. Um, no, weakness is letting that fear um, control us, right? It's okay to be afraid. It's what we do with the fear that matters. Thank you for the follow, Ninja. Cavalli says, your story reminds me of a current conundrum. Listening in on Bakey Brunch, that's awesome, by the way, made me realize that I need to rethink my answers to behavioral questions. In an interview, how should you discuss weaknesses, mistakes, handling difficult situations, and coworkers without snitching on yourself? I love that question. That's a great question. I love it. Yeah, because that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with is how do we talk about times when we messed up? Because and the interviewer knows that everybody has messed up professionally at some point in their career. Um, and the trick is how you talk about it. You always want to acknowledge your mistakes, but make sure that you always end on a note of improvement, self improvement, and how you ensure that it doesn't happen again. And I actually had the director of, so there was another time I made a mistake at work. Um, and it was, ended up being addressed like in front of the entire team. It just, how it happened. And so in that meeting, I owned up to the mistake, and I acknowledged exactly what went wrong. And then I laid out the, exactly what I would do to make sure it would never happen again. And later on, the director of our department actually like sent me a message and said, "Wow, you handled that really well. I really liked how you handled that." And again, that all draws back to that other story that I told you from earlier in my career, how I handle it in that meeting too. So whenever you're discussing, like you get that asked that question, can you tell me about a time that you made a mistake, and how you handled that mistake? So you want to, when you're discussing that mistake, you want to be factual without being self-deprecating. And that's difficult for some of us sometimes. We want to say, yeah, gosh, like I screwed up. I don't know, it just didn't go, like there's this project and it didn't go well, and like I just couldn't get along with the team, and yeah, that was my biggest mistake. So an answer like that, what that does is, number one, it doesn't give any details to tell, to say that you understood what you did wrong, and to show that you learned anything from it. It doesn't show any of that. And it's self-deprecating, so it gives the interviewer a bad taste in their mouth about you. So how you should talk about it is, yeah, so I was put in charge of a project to migrate an Excel data source into a SQL data table. And I was interfacing with the customer, but I was having trouble maintaining proper deadlines with the customer prior to this service implementation. It was difficult to communicate with them due to their busy schedule, and I had an unclear idea of who to communicate with as far as their employment hierarchy. And so, because of that, we missed the deadline for implementation. We couldn't get their data source into the system in time. And so what we did to rectify that in the end, was I reached out to my manager, who communicated with their manager, and we managed to get an expedited project in place to implement the data source after the service changeover. And then we went through the whole testing process. We spent plenty of time testing. The customer understood why the problem happened. And then for every subsequent project after that, what I did is I made sure that we had kind of a initial planning session built into our project schedule. So we would have an extra couple weeks for planning, for back and forth, for spec creation, for timelines. And I also made sure that I understood uh, their management structure and their schedule limitations so that we could set up our meetings ahead of time without having to try to schedule on the fly and be delayed. Okay, so what did I do there? Well, there I laid out the problem in a factual way without emotion, without bringing a sense of, embarrassment or self-deprecation into it. What happened, right? There's no changing it. I clearly stated my role in the problem. And by the way, that was a completely made up problem. That wasn't something that actually happened to me, but it's something I've seen happen. Um, and so I laid out the problem factually. I described my role in the problem and that I clearly, was a contributor to it. I wasn't the only contributor, but I also didn't blame anybody else. I didn't blame the customer. I just stated what challenges came between me and the customer. And then, this is the crucial part, I specifically talked about what we did to resolve it. And then I talked about what I did to make sure it would never happen again. So you gotta include those things. Oh my goodness, you. Thank you so much for the bits. That's lovely. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. I don't know what that does, but thank you so much. Um, so yeah, those things are important. To break it down for you again, describe. So first off, have a good example. You shouldn't ever be scrambling for an example. You should have one already, because you're going to get asked this question. So have it in your head. Describe the issue factually, exactly what happened without emotion.
Memento Mori 415 underscore FBP
Oh
gifted
my
5
goodness, thank you so much for the
subscriptions to
gifted
the
subs.
community.
That's wild, Memento Mori. Thank you so much. Please thank Memento Mori. If you were just gifted a sub, please thank them. You get the you get the thank you sub screen. So kind of you. Thank you so much. Spending. Yeah. So anyway, lay out exactly what happened factually without emotion, and then describe exactly how you resolved the problem. Now, it might not be that you fixed everything, but surely there was some kind of resolution. You should describe, what you contributed to that resolution, right? You should be able to talk about, here's what I did to fix it in the moment. And then finally, you should also be able to talk about, what did you do to make sure it never happens again? Or to mitigate the problem in the future. Maybe not so it never happens again, but to mitigate the problem in the future. So 3 steps: describe factually, talk about how you contributed to the resolution in the moment, and then what you did to stop it from happening again. And also, never think of one of these examples on the fly. This is a question you should prep beforehand, because otherwise you're going to fall into the habit of, self-deprecating, explaining it poorly, making you out to look worse than you actually did in the moment. So you absolutely should curate this answer. Hi, Ninja. Yeah, so I'm actually, that's awesome that you're a full stack engineer. Um, I'd like to collaborate with you to create more engaging content and start to finish product. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me there. I'm really not open for collaborations at the moment, like on a project. I've got plenty of stuff on my own plate right now. But if you have a specific question, you're welcome to ask it here in chat. And also too, that doesn't mean that, if you make a mistake, that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to feel embarrassed or ashamed, right? It's all about how you handle those feelings. So instead of running away and hiding, you got to address it in the moment, because how you deal with it right then is going to color, how your coworkers are going to see you, and how they're going to react when similar situations might come up in the future. Yeah, situation, task, action, result. Exactly. So in this case, that's basically how I told you to phrase the answer, right? What was the situation? What was the task that occurred? What did you do about it? And then what did you do to make it not happen again? What was the result of that? What was the result of that situation? Copper Lily says, I also have an issue finding a good example of dealing with difficult coworkers, because evidently I've only ever worked with goblins. Well, then that means you have a lot of examples, right? If you've unfortunately had to work with some difficult people, then I'm sure you have a lot of examples to choose from. No worries, Memento Mori. Thank you again for that's incredibly generous of you. Oh my goodness, Dr. Moto, thank you so much for the sub. Sorry, I'm still catching up with chat. I apologize. Y'all are buzzing today, and I love it. Uh, but yes, Dr. Moto, thank you. Very kind of you. Also, for any of you who have just subbed or have just received a sub, you now have access to my lovely emoji library. So, or emoticons, I forget what they call them here. Emotes, sorry, they're emotes. Uh, you now have access to my emote library of some, quite frankly, adorable little green wolf emotes. So enjoy those. Some of them are animated. And yes, I paid an artist a fair rate to make those as well. So that's what I like to do. Sneaky says, "Can you give me an executive summary on how I can take Half Life 2 and turn it into Half Life 3 in 2 weeks? I want to get rich in 2 weeks. Make friends with Gabe Newell. That's my executive summary. Become Gabe Newell's best friend and convince Gabe to make Half Life 3. I'm sure they've got it. I'm sure they've got it done somewhere. I'm sure there's an alpha build. You just got to get him to release it. So become Gabe Newell's friend and make him release it. No worries, Memento. Thank you. Copperly says, talking about dealing with difficult coworkers, there was never a positive result. Okay, so maybe we reframe it a little bit. You might say, yeah, so in my line of work, I deal with a lot of, and I'm speaking from your perspective, Copper Lily. So this is an example, this is an answer that you might give. So you would say something like, in my line of work, I deal with a lot of strong, forceful personalities. And so I think the important thing there is when you're dealing with lots of strong, conflicting, forceful personalities, is that you need to keep an objective view of the goal, right? When other people are experiencing large emotions, you need to temper that by driving the conversation to facts, driving the conversation to the goal, and then most importantly, not not taking that personally and carrying it with me outside of work, right? So I don't take it home with me. I recharge and then I come back the next day ready to do it again, ready to focus on the goal, and keep I, I see myself as the lightning rod, that protects what we're actually trying to achieve, right? The lightning rod um, absorbs all the that negative energy so that it doesn't affect the structure of what we're actually working on. So I my strategy for dealing with those coworkers is be the lightning rod, absorb it, and don't let it affect the goal. There you go. Sneaky donkey. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I like that. Invest in yourself. Yeah, as to sneaky donkey. Don't get you know don't try to get rich off somebody else's project. Yeah, invest in yourself. I like that. Oh, I didn't know that, Dr. Moto. So the writer released the planned story for Half Life 3 a few years ago. Wow. Okay. Interesting. The more you know. Oh, we got Denial of Service. Denial of Service Dog. That is a fantastic name. I love that username. Thank you for the follow. Denial of Service Dog. Brazen Intellect, thank you for the follow. Ninja, thank you for the follow. Yes, thank you all. But he's being so kind today. Well, chat's always kind, but you know, y'all are being great. Um, Actually, we're probably going to wrap it up in about half an hour. We didn't even get to the code wars, but that's okay. I really wanted to start out with a conversation today because we have been having some really great discussions, and this is what I wanted to talk about. So I'm so glad it went the way it did. About 30 minutes in our stream remaining. So what else do y'all want to talk about? What questions do you have? What topics would you like to discuss? Yeah, sure, Snarfin, absolutely. We're gonna get back to the more standard project work in upcoming streams, and who knows if 100 Devs starts in May, then we're gonna be right back on the 100 Devs train, baby, doing the homeworks, yeah, doing the homeworks live together, helping you all with questions on the homeworks. Uh, yeah, just basically going right back to what we did during the last cohort of you know, essentially TA type stuff, office hours, questions, live homeworks. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So for folks that are my regular viewers who maybe did the last cohort, you all will have the chance to be the helpers, right? You're going to have the chance to be my aides essentially in chat, helping folks who are struggling with specific questions or things that maybe I answer live and somebody joins later and they ask the same question. Y'all can help them with that. Kara says, "I really want to do the live cohort. Doing it alone does feel lonely sometimes." Yeah, I think that's one of the main values that 100 Devs brings is that live aspect. A lot of folks um, online, a lot of the discourse around 100 Devs, people are like, "Oh, well, I just did the Odin project. The 100 Devs course is too fluffy, right? There's too much talking, too much pep talk, motivation, that type of thing." And okay, yeah, like I respect that, but a lot of folks need a sense of community as that outside motivation. I mean, that's the only reason why I got through 100 Devs in the first place. With my scattered ADHD brain, I don't have any sense of internal motivation to do things without some kind of external force pushing me to do it. So for me, the community was vital for me to actually do the work. Like if I would have started the Odin project or free code camp, like I started CS50, couldn't do it, no motivation, even though it was something I wanted. I needed the live community in order to like get me through, um, to provide the motivation that I just simply cannot generate inside myself. It's just I can't do it. I don't feel bad about it. I just don't have that ability. So I need an external force. Yeah, Copperly says, "I like to help others, but I struggle with explaining stuff that requires more than 2 words because then I start second guessing myself and I don't want to lead anyone astray." Just to circle back to the whole anxiety thing. Yeah. Um, so you don't have to help people verbally. From what I've seen in chat, you're a very good writer. You are you're I don't know, you write very clearly, I guess is what I'm saying. And so you are an excellent writer and I can always very clearly understand, what you're getting at and what you're saying. And so you don't have to help people verbally. You could always help people in written form if that's more comfortable and easier to do. You can think about your responses. You can, edit things if needed. But I think it's also important to remember that anxiety often causes us to, again, internalize, right? We're more focused internally, and so we have a warped view of what other people are doing and seeing, right? Because we're so focused on what we're doing and how we look and how we feel and how we're presenting ourselves, we don't have really the brain power to devote to getting an accurate view of what the outside world is actually thinking and feeling about us. We just make it up essentially, or we exaggerate it, we extrapolate it. Um, and so with that sort of mindset, it's easy to feel like, well, I'm going to say it wrong and somebody's going to be mad at me, or I'm going to, I'm going to not state things exactly the right way and they're not going to understand. And then they're going to get frustrated and mad and they're going to quit. And that's such an infinitesimal possibility where the thing that's most likely to happen is that you're going to help somebody, right? the thing that has a high probability of happening is that someone's going to get a better understanding. Yeah, maybe that's not perfect understanding, but they're going to get some assistance out of it. The thing with the 99% probability is that they're going to receive a benefit from your assistance. And so it's better in every sense to contribute if you have something to contribute, because you are adding to the net positive of the community. However that contribution looks, whether it's verbal, whether it's written, um, especially in a community such as 100 Devs, the net sort of the baseline sort of opinion of others is that they are trying to help, that they are trying to contribute, that they are wanting to have a positive impact. And so whatever that contribution looks like, it will be appreciated. Well, you just said that's why, and I type in a correct response, somebody's usually beating me to the punch. That's why I tend to answer only your simpler question. That's fine. That's great. That's helping. Whatever questions you want to answer, you can answer. And sometimes the people that type the fastest may not have the clearest answers, right? So they answer it right away, and then you can come back with a more detailed answer. So think about Copper Lily. You've been around for a while. Remember when we were doing the live cohort, and Rascal 2 used to be my absolute MVP in chat. And the way Rascal would answer questions is they would type out like a 2-paragraph response, and it would only show up in chat like 2 minutes later. And it was still incredible because I would circle back to it. And because it was, it would be such a thorough response, and it would be so helpful and so detailed, it would just add more context to that initial answer that somebody typed out very quickly, both of which are appreciated, but both of which benefit the asker in different ways, right? You have the quick and dirty, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense, we can move on type of response. And then you have the more detailed, here's actually how this works under the hood, or here's more context response that just adds more flavor to that initial understanding. So both are beneficial, just in different ways. There's nothing wrong with either one. Neither one is the right answer. They're just different ways of addressing the question, right? Yeah, exactly. People learn differently. So sometimes seeing the perspective of someone else on a topic can help you understand better. Yeah, every participant is a winner. Exactly. Anybody who is making the effort to genuinely help someone else in their learning journey is a winner. Anybody who is making that effort in a genuine way, expending their time, expending their energy, expending their knowledge just to help someone else in a selfless way, yeah, they are absolutely a winner. They will never not be a winner. Yeah, exactly. Gotta love Rascal. Yeah, and that's how Rascal answers every question. Is they take their time, they think about it, and they answer the way they want to answer. So Rascal never has any qualms about how long their answer is, or how long it takes them to look it up, or how long it takes them to find the right link. They're gonna answer it exactly the way they want to, and they're gonna post it, and it's gonna be fantastic. So yep, be like Rascal. Tay Mister says, how many Code Wars problems have we solved so far today? Tell them, chat. While I hydrate. All of them. How many have we done? Big old goose egg, friends. But that doesn't mean it hasn't been worthwhile. We've been having a fantastic discussion about ADHD, anxiety, mental health, interviewing, working in tech, how to answer interview questions better, how to talk about our mistakes in a proactive way. Yeah, we have been all kinds of productive today, just verbally productive rather than Code Wars productive. Care says, what sizes do you need for your logo? Or do you want a specific format? I mean, I was just thinking like a vector, like SVG, just so that it could be like resized and edited pretty easily. But I'm not picky. Pass the Prop says, what are you doing to combat ADHD? I feel like careers where we have to use their brain a lot, like programming, there's a spike in ADHD. I often find myself forgetting details I should remember. Birthdays, conversations, yeah. Birthdays, don't even get me started. Conversations, visual cues. All these spikes since all these spiked since I started to program, and it makes me want to leave it. So I would be cautious about um, ascribing your other mental difficulties on programming. I think I would really be cautious about trying to ascribe those type of cause and effect links. Um, I think you should carefully examine the other factors in your current environment and living situation. Um, as you're learning to program, are you keeping a good sleep schedule? Are you getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night? If you have like a Fitbit or something, or like a smartwatch, make sure that you're using your sleep tracking there to ensure that you're getting good quality sleep. Um, are you eating good meals with good food that's nutritious? Are you eating enough? Are you drinking like non-sugary beverages? Like, are you drinking water, tea, things that aren't loaded with sugar? And are you using caffeine in moderation? um are you drinking like 2 pots of coffee per day? There's so many other things that are probably having way more of an effect on you than the act of programming. Um so be I mean, I don't know your life, but I would really carefully examine what else you have going on in your life. Also, let's say, are you learning to code while you're also working a full-time job, right? Are you spending all day at a stressful job and then, spending all evening learning to code and working your brain really, really hard? Um, Stress has a huge effect on memory. If you're stressed out, your brain simply cannot function properly. So, what is your life like? That is what is your life like right now in those areas that we just talked about? Stress, sleep, food, hydration, and sort those things out first before abandoning coding. Because, like, again, I don't know your life, but it's probably not the coding. There's probably something else going on. And if you've gotten all those things sorted out, if you're like, yep, I am A-okay on all those things, then I would suggest talking to a medical professional and really explaining what you've got going on. Because it could be something else entirely. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're in your 20s, I don't know what age you are, but if you're in your 20s, a lot of mental health conditions can tend to manifest during that time. So it could be your age too, that could be a factor. Um, so tons of things. Also, in general, make sure that, like, you have a carbon monoxide detector in your home. Make sure that you don't have a gas leak. Make sure that you don't have carbon monoxide. Make sure that your home is properly ventilated. Someone recently, Leon, the founder of a group that I work with, was having a lot of mental, like, memory struggles and that type of thing. And um, it was because he was in the same room every day, like for many, many hours, streaming and in a closed, soundproof room. And the room was literally full of carbon dioxide. So the breath that you exhale. And just by like opening a window, he managed to, like, he put in a monitor, like a carbon dioxide monitor, and it was through the roof. Like, he was poisoning his brain just by not having good ventilation. And so stuff like, there's tons of factors that could be affecting you right now. um, and so if you've examined all those things and you feel like it's not any of those things, talk to a medical professional, because something else could be going on. Yeah. Jack Jacker says, I drink 3 pots of coffee a day. Help. Yeah. Caffeine can be a real crutch sometimes for us, right? And going off of it can be difficult because you get headaches, you get physical symptoms. My mom used to have that kind of consumption, multiple pots of coffee per day. And she just had to slowly wean herself down. Now she takes like one, she doesn't even drink coffee anymore. She takes like one caffeine pill, which is a very low dose, and just pretty much off coffee entirely. Yeah, Copper Lily says sleep, diet, and exercise are absolutely paramount. I still struggle, but I'm absolutely useless when these fall out of balance. Yeah, for some of us, having appropriate sleep, exercise, diet, those can be the things that kind of keep us from going over the edge completely. Smith Royal says, "Do you have a college degree?" I do. Yes. It doesn't really have any bearing on what I do currently. Um, Coding with Strangers, what is up, my friend? Everybody go follow Coding with Strangers right now. Coding with Strangers is amazing. They are a fantastic human and a whole lot of fun. Immediately go follow them. Hang on, I'm going to give them a shout out. Coding with Strangers. Try that. Did I get it right? Hey, there we go. Yeah, they are so much fun, and they are always working on something interesting. Um, So welcome, Raiders. What are you working on? What are you working on coding? How you doing? I haven't been over to your stream in a while. I hope I get the chance to raid you again. Hey, I'm good. Yeah, my shoulder is doing better, not 100%, but going to see a doctor on Tuesday about it, and hopefully get back up and running. Absolutely, but doing much better than I was. Yeah. Uh, okay. Before the raid, I was talking about. Do you have the Smith Royal asked? Do you have a college degree? I do. I was saying that it doesn't really have any bearing on what I do now, and I think you'll find that a lot of people in tech have degrees that don't have anything to do with tech. Currently, at my job, my manager has a degree in sociology. I have another coworker with a degree and we're all developers, by the way. I have a coworker with another degree in journalism. Uh, yeah, we've got like sociology, journalism. I have a degree in statistics. I don't use statistics at all anymore. So yeah, everybody comes from everywhere, all different backgrounds, and it doesn't really matter what that degree is. Um, some people don't have degrees at all. There's another coworker who's not on my direct team, but yeah, they don't have a college degree at all. But yet they're extremely respected in their area. Pass the Prop says it's pretty good actually. It's just that I forget development pipelines and relearning concepts from scratch. Okay, that gives me some more context on what you're talking about. So, um, if you're having to relearn concepts from scratch, that probably means that you aren't uh, repeatedly applying them. You're not creating those pathways in your brain. So there's a fantastic course called Learning How to Learn that everybody in 100 Devs has to take, and it teaches you how to like actually make stuff stick in your brain. And the biggest thing you can do to help make things stick in your brain is literally to repeat them. It's called spaced repetition. Because if you don't repeat something, your brain is very efficient, actually. So in your body, your brain is like a huge consumer of energy. It's like a Nvidia, 9 million graphics card, right? It takes a ton of energy, and so your brain is gonna try to be efficient by getting rid of pathways that it's not using, connections. It's going to dissolve connections it's not using. And so, in order for you to actually make connections that stick, you gotta apply them and then keep applying them at regular intervals. So your brain's like, oh, yeah, this is important. This person keeps using this. I got to keep this connection intact. I can't let this connection go away. That's how memory works. And so it's about spaced repetition. It's about repeatedly revisiting concepts at intervals in order to keep them fresh. Because otherwise, yeah, you will forget them. Anybody, regardless of whether you have ADHD or not, if you don't actively repeat something, and it's called active recall is the act of meaningfully recalling the topic, and then spaced repetition is the act of then repeating that topic at intervals to maintain the connection in your brain. So regardless of whether or not you have ADHD, that works the same for everyone. That's literally how your brain functions. They say, I guess when I remember something, I have to drop something else. Not necessarily true. Again, it's all about the mechanics of how you retain that information. Um, Anything you don't practice, whether it's, you know, childhood memories, or, or your times tables, right? Anything you don't practice, your brain is going to actively shelve. Now, if it's something that you have regularly rehearsed and built those connections, instead of just discarding it, your brain will move it to the long-term memory storage. And so that's the goal, is to get your brain to say, this is so important, I need to move it to the official archives. Like, I need to put this in like my permanently recoverable memory space. And so by that regular practice, that's how you get it there. That's how it's not going to fall out of your head. uh, People excrete dioxide, monoxide comes from smoke. It's also important to remember that in your house, that you can also get carbon monoxide issues from like gas appliances. So gas stoves, gas heaters, those can leak not only just the gas itself, but also the ventilation from that. So be very careful about that, because monoxide is not detectable. So you should have a carbon monoxide detector, at least one in your house, if you have any kind of gas appliances, gas stove, gas heater, gas water heater, any of that. I have like three of them, like three detectors, I mean, in various points in the house. Coding with strangers. It's so great to see you again. Coming the best JS programmer on this side of the Mississippi. Hell yes, you are. Yeah, coding with strangers is a great example of that degree question. They are coming from a medical background, so they have hella degrees. Uh, and it doesn't matter. Anybody, like, degree or no, anybody can get into CS. It doesn't matter what your background is. Yeah. Smith says, you think that computer science major would be the way to go for software development? I mean, it's not going to hurt you, but keep in mind that a CS degree is often not going to be focused on the specific skills that you need to be successful in the workplace. CS degrees are oftentimes going to be focused a lot on theory, focused a lot on like algorithms and sort of bigger picture type stuff. When that's not, like, it's not unimportant, and I'm absolutely not saying that, but a traditional CS degree is often not going to be tailored to like real day to day work, what you would actually be doing, and what skills you're actually going to be using every single day at your job. Is it going to help you make connections and give you a leg up, and help you pass that initial like check with recruiters? Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, it's not going to hurt you, but be mindful that it's not a magic bullet to immediately land you a job. There's a lot of other skills that go into working in tech, and many of them are soft skills. So by that I mean the ability to network, the ability to talk to people, the ability to sell yourself as a person, to sell your accomplishments, the ability to collaborate, the ability to adapt, the ability to deal with problems, the ability to think critically and logically. None of those things are guaranteed if you have a degree. I unfortunately, I have friends who have gotten the degree and still flamed out in their careers, just because they never developed those types of skills to be functional in the workplace. College doesn't teach that. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Now, if you have the means and the funds to get a CS degree, I mean, sure, but it's not required. Copperly asked, how did the eclipse experience go? Fantastic. Yeah, I got to see the totality. It was great. Yep. And traffic wasn't that bad either where I was at. No worries, KR. Thank you so much. It was great having you here. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. The archive. I need Leo and his team from Inception to extract that type of information. Again, if it's something that is going to be valuable to your learning journey, check out Learning How to Learn. Learn the fundamentals of how to retain information and recall it. It'll be hugely beneficial for you. Yep, Dr. Barbara Oakley is the professor, and it's a free course, and it really actually teaches you how to study, learn, and retain information. Muhammad says, I understand the code I'm writing, but sometimes I don't remember the syntax. Is this okay? Yeah. As a developer, I Google things all the freaking time. Like, I mean, sometimes I'll forget like silly things, like in whatever language I'm writing, crap, how do I do a single line comment? Like, is it slash slash? Is it dash dash? Double quotes, like what? How do I start a single line comment in this language that I'm writing? And so I have to Google it, and that's okay. The important thing is that you know what you're trying to get to, right? You're like, I know I need to, use this particular method here, but I don't exactly remember, is there an underscore in the method? Like, how do I spell it? Whatever. That stuff is fine to Google. Yeah. How much does it cost to get a CS degree? It really depends. Um, some other countries are fortunate enough that college is free or heavily subsidized. In the United States, college tends to, I say tends to be, there are many high quality colleges, but they are also extremely expensive. Um, we are talking anywhere from um, 15,000 to $30,000 a year over 4 years, and that can put you in a hell of a lot of debt, right? If you do a 4 year degree, you are essentially putting yourself into a hole financially that can be extremely hard to dig yourself out of as you go through life, right? You're trying to start a job, you're trying to start a family, you're trying to, start a life, get a house, and you have this debt weighing you down for the majority of your working life. Um, some people are fortunate to get scholarships or grants, but many, many, many Americans have to take out loans. So I'm speaking from a very American perspective here. In some other countries, if your college is free or subsidized or inexpensive, then hell yeah. I mean, it may be completely worth it to get that CS degree. But if you're in the U.S., you really have to weigh the cost versus the benefit in the end, right? So I always, I want to put that disclaimer out there. And it's really unfortunate that people have to make that decision. We should all be able to learn for the sake of learning, right? If we love to learn, if we're passionate about something, we should be able to get that knowledge and have people help us get that knowledge. But that's not the way the higher education system works currently, which is, again, why I love 100 Dev so much. I work for a university. I am employed by an American university that charges students to attend. Um, and I love working for that university. I feel like I have a benefit to society by working there, but I still spend a lot of my free time volunteering for 100 devs because not everyone can have the privilege to attend a university and take on that financial burden. Yeah, go follow again. Go follow Coding with Strangers. Head over to their Twitch page right now if you haven't already. Give them a follow. They're a lot of fun, I promise. Now more like Ask Chat GPT. Yeah, GPT is a huge help. Copilot is a huge help. I use both of those regularly in my day job. Now, if you are just learning to code, be very cautious about using ChatGPT because not only is ChatGPT often wrong, it is confidently wrong. It will deliberately mislead you with its answers. and it can also hinder your learning by just giving you the answer, right? So be very cautious about using that if you're still learning to code. Now, I use it regularly because I already kind of know like what I'm looking for when if I'm asking it for something, right? Usually if I'm asking it for something, I'm just trying to complete a problem. I'm not trying to ask it to solve a problem from scratch. I'm asking it to kind of like get me across the finish line, right? Like I know that like I want to build this thing exactly this way with, this function, but there's something slightly wrong about it and I can't quite figure it out. So I'm going to put that in there and say, "Okay, tell me what's wrong with this." And it's going to say, "Oh, well, you forgot a comma on line 16." I'll be like, "Oh yeah, thank you," and then it works, right? Or I'll say, "Hey, can you, rewrite this block of code to do X, Y, Z?" So I give it a starting point, and then so I can usually tell if it's trying to give me some BS in response because it will. There'll be times when it gives me something back, and I'm like, "This ain't it, bro. Like you're trying to tell me this is right, and I already know it's not going to work." And so if I didn't already know, kind of have a feel for what the right answer was, I could get into big trouble really quickly. So just be careful. Yeah, Snarfin says, yeah, take Snarfin's word for it as a fellow dev. They Google all the time. All my coworkers always have 21. Yeah, everybody's Googling things all the time. There's no shame in that. But the important thing is that you are coming from a starting point of knowledge and you're using these tools, GPT, Google, that kind of thing, Stack Overflow, whatever. You're using these tools to supplement your knowledge, right? So you already have the base knowledge and you're just using Google and ChatGPT to fill in the blanks rather than do your job for you. Tabs for days. Yeah, 100% right here. Tabs for days. And Rob Chris says ChatGPT helped to mess even more of my kid. Yeah, I got to be careful with that. Definitely. Always test everything GPT gives you. If you're not sure whether it's right, you know, get a second opinion. Don't ever take what it gives you at face value. And I like Leon brought this up recently, and I really like this. If you're not a native English speaker and you are using GPT to help you write something important, like a resume or a cover letter, um, be very careful because GPT anything it right like it can help you structure like a letter or a resume. It can definitely help you with the structure, but a lot of the time the wording is not going to be great. It's going to be very obvious that it was not written by a human, or it's not going to read well to like a native speaker. So be careful about that. Maybe get a second opinion, have somebody else read it over, run it through a grammar checker, run it through a tone checker. And yeah, just be careful. Yep, exactly. Snarfin says, "I'd personally advise against using AI while learning. Stick to Google once you get a solid foundation. Then you can parse out the good from the bad." Got to do the hard work on the ground floor, and then once you're actually actively building things, then you can start using ChatGPT to make your work go a little quicker. Because in the end, we got to remember it's just a tool. It's not a. We've talked about a lot of things today where it's like you go into it thinking, "Oh, this is the magic thing. This is the silver bullet," right? And none of it is. Life is too complex for that. Unfortunately, we wish there was a little. We wish the world was magic and you know uh, fairies could come in and solve all our problems, but that's not how things work. Life is too complex. Life is too magical already for magic to be real, and so we have to treat GPT and AI just like any other tool that we would use as a supplement, not a replacement to our work. Yeah. All right. Any last topics? Otherwise, I think we're going to kind of wrap things up here. I have been talking since 2 p.m. So for like the last 4.5 hours, I have been talking. So prior to the stream, I was on another meeting. So I've been talking for a long time. But I'm happy to answer any last questions before we wrap for today. No worries, Copy Lily. Someone ask a question. Hey, feel free. It's fine. I'm asking. Any last topics that anybody'd like to inquire about before we wrap up? I always give notice. I never just straight up like end the stream. I always try to give notice about, you know, closing time, as it were. While y'all are thinking about that, let's find somebody to raid. Michelle says, time for some mint tea to soothe your throat. I've got tea like crazy. Sure, Ivan, what's your question? Go ahead. Dr. Moto says, how many push-ups can you? I've actually been doing a lot of yard work lately, and I'm feeling a little bit of strength. Now, the whole shoulder thing really kind of set me back in that area. That I absolutely busted out my shoulder a couple weeks ago. But I mean, feeling pretty good in the upper body now that I'm been working in the yard and it's been nice outside, digging holes, planting things, lifting buckets and pots and water and stuff. Curl a cat, bench press a dog, digging holes. Everybody loves to dig a hole. I mean, what's more satisfying than just digging a hole in the dirt? I think maybe digging a hole on the beach is more satisfying than digging a hole in the dirt. Like, digging the hole on a sandy beach. That's good stuff. Yeah, everybody, this is the time of year everybody's replanting stuff, moving things in, moving things out, watering stuff, dragging hoses around. No worries, Wolfie. Great to have you. Ivan said, I took a couple longer breaks from all 100 Devs related stuff and slowly getting back on track, but I have problems crafting my story. Okay, yeah, what questions do you have? And put your cactus outside? Sure. What questions do you have about your story? Renate says the only thing that's more satisfying than digging a hole is digging a hole for no reason. Yeah. Oh. Let me tell you though, the soil in my area, like in my backyard, it's like all clay, like just like like if you think about like potting clay, like clay that people use to build like pots out of, it's my soil is like that, and it is extremely hard to dig a good hole because the soil just sticks to the shovel. It literally, like, you pull up the shovel and it just all sticks to it, and it's just ugh, it's so difficult. Whoa, Wade, thank you so much for the sub. Holy cannoli. Okay. Uh, thank you. You're very cool. Thank you so much for subscribing, and I hope you're having a great day. Thank you, Wade. Okay. Oh, here we go. Question from Ivan. I've been here since the beginning of cohort 2. Awesome. Um, how can I compensate for my longer experience when I don't have much to show for it? Okay. I did everything that was supposed to be done for 100 devs. Great. Including client work. Okay. That was initially a 30-week program. We're now in April 2024. Okay. Well, you did client work, right? So you have client projects that you can talk about in an interview. You could, if you did the client work and if you did everything for 100 devs, you also have a portfolio, right? So you have a portfolio and you have client work. So what you've done since then is freelancing. You've worked with clients, you've been freelancing, and now you're ready to sort of get out of the freelancing zone and into the more standard employment. So you know, I've been working with clients. Here's an example of some of the work that I've done. Maybe here's a recommendation from one of my clients. Here's my portfolio with some of my past work. You can see my skills, and the time period really doesn't matter. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you said including client work, excluding client work. Okay. When I said longer experience, I meant the fact that I've been studying and doing engineering for 2. Yeah. So I think that the problem there is that you need to build up those things to show for it. So, do you have a portfolio? First question. So you're still working on the client thing. So the client thing would definitely help. I think that's also a requirement for 100 devs too. You said you did everything that's supposed to be done. So yeah, client work is also a requirement. So definitely do that if you can. Do you have a portfolio? You don't have to share it here. I'm just asking in general. Something you could show an interviewer. Great, awesome. Yeah. So, say studying and doing engineering for 2 years. Okay. So I'm assuming, what when you say studying and doing engineering during that time, you were employed or no? Yeah, and that's another great point. Do you also have your 100 hours project? That's another, 100 devs requirement. So, number one, have you been employed at all doing any job? It doesn't matter what. Have you been employed at all over the past 2 years? And do you have a 100 hours project, and what is it? So, I guess three questions. Getting a real life client might be the hardest first steps. Mm, Depends on how you go about it. Um, I got mine literally. I didn't even really like, for mine anyway. It ended up being like a friend of a friend of a like a. I told all my family members that I was doing this, and uh, my aunt worked with someone whose wife had a travel business, and that's how I got my first client. Fantastic. Okay, that's amazing. Ivan, yes. So you have been employed. That's great. Awesome. Baller. You've worked in restaurants. Food service is amazing. A lot of folks start out in food service. Food service, you should absolutely put food service on your resume. So, um, yeah, so you have food service, you have an employment history over the past couple of years. Great. Uh, do you have a 100 hours project from 100 devs? I'm specifically, so in 100 devs, the capstone is a 100 hours project. So do you have one of those? You have a portfolio. Great. You're working on the client thing. Do you have a 100 hours project? Hey, thank you for the follow, Izzy. Hope you're having a great day. So while they're working on their response, oh, great, Ivan, that's awesome. They say I have a bigger full stack project that took me slightly more. Perfect. That's your 100 hours project right there. When we say 100 hours, it's more like it should take you at least 100 hours. It's not that 100 hours is the cutoff. So fantastic. That's great. You're set up. So you don't. So you have a solid employment history. Doesn't matter. It's not in tech. It doesn't matter. You have a portfolio. You have a 100 hours project. You have plenty to talk about in an interview. Um, so in that interview, you are going to emphasize that um, you've been working. So you've been working in food service for most of the past X number of years. However, you discovered a passion for development, specifically web development and full stack development. I'm helping you craft your story right now. So yeah, so I've been working food service the past couple of years, but on the side, I really started doing web development. I taught myself. I just developed this absolute passion for web development, for self learning. I spent most of my free time teaching myself from the ground up. I actually started my own, working with clients. I developed a portfolio. And I even went so far to build a working full stack application to really demonstrate my skills. And I can show that to you right now if you would like. Then you launch into a demonstration of your application, why you built it, the passion behind it, like what was the inspiration for it, how it works. You don't have to get into super technical detail, but you should have a working demo. And I feel like, and this is me speaking as you again, I feel like this really demonstrates my commitment to becoming a developer, and it shows my enthusiasm for this field and why I want to break into full-time employment as a developer. This is truly my passion. I have devoted all of my free time to this over the past 2 years, and um, I hope that my passion shows in this demonstration, and why I would be such a good candidate for your company. So yeah, I think you have a great pitch. And also too, I mean, if they ask about your food service work, then hell yeah. You have spent the last few years working in incredibly high stress collaborative environments. with constantly changing priorities, with a variety of customer interaction, um, with tight schedules, tight deadlines, um, tons of teamwork, tons of collaboration. Um, yeah, I mean, you've got the skills, my friend. So don't leave the food service stuff off your resume. Leave that on there. Just be ready to speak to it in terms that apply to working in tech. I hope that's helpful. So yeah, you've already got all the building blocks. Having a client will absolutely be helpful, but since you've been employed, um, it's not going to be a deal breaker, I don't think. But still, helpful to have a client and helpful to have a client recommendation. But yeah, since you've got the 100 hours project in the portfolio, that's hugely helpful, and you're going to want to emphasize how hard you worked outside of your regular job to pick up a completely new field and career, and and really apply yourself to this passion that you have for web development. So I think you got a winner there. Mohammed says, do you also use GPT or just Google? We were talking about this a little bit earlier. I use GPT for my day job, but really only for questions that I just need a little help with. Like I already kind of know the answer to, or I already know what I want to do or how I want to do it. I just use GPT to help me get there. So like I already know I want to build a complex query, and I have all the elements that I want. I just want GPT to write the query for me, because it's going to take me a long time to write it. Like I already know what I want to do. I just want GPT to help me get there. So that's a little different than somebody who's learning and using it, because it's all about what side of the eight ball you're going to be on. Are you guiding the conversation, or are you just doing whatever GPT tells you? There's a difference. If you're a professional and you're using GPT like a tool, then you are guiding the conversation to get GPT to deliver exactly what you want. Whereas if you're using it while you're learning, GPT is guiding the conversation, and then it's the blind leading the blind. Yeah, thank you for that additional networking context too there, Chris. Absolutely. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful there, Ivan. Yeah, best of luck. I think you've got a great foundation already. Yeah, just polishing it. I wouldn't stress too much about those 2 years, um, because you've been working, right. You've been working food service, and you've been pursuing your passion on the side, and I think that's a great story to tell. It's not a negative in any way. It's a positive. Yep. Okay, let's find somebody to raid. And then while I'm looking at this, you can feel free to ask any last questions. No worries, Rarcos. Thank you so much for stopping in. It's great to have you here. All right, let's see who's doing what, shall we? Um, as always, we're looking for folks who are in the software and game dev space, preferably. Doesn't have to be, but preferably. If anybody has any recommendations for a good raid target who's online right now, please let me know and give me a little context about like what they do. And yeah, we can definitely check them out. Ooh, let's go for similar or smaller size. I'd love to spread some love to smaller streamers as well. No worries, Chris. Thank you for stopping in as always. Love to see you here. Ooh, if this person's doing art, hey, I'm a sucker for art. I gotta say, they're not doing software game dev, but I'm a sucker for art, especially if it's science art. Does anybody know this streamer? Science inspired art pieces to engage the community. That looks fun. Oh, Chubby, don't worry. You don't have to do anything. What a raid is, that's a great question. So, what a raid is when a streamer like me is ready to end their stream, I can automatically send all of my viewers to someone else. And so As long as you stick around, you'll automatically be bounced over to their stream. And then you can start participating in their chat. So it's just a way for folks to get exposed to other streamers, and for other streamers to get a bigger audience, especially small streamers. It's great. Um, so we can just kind of pass our viewers around. So earlier, if you were on the stream, you might have seen that our friend Coding with Strangers rated us. So Coding with Strangers sent their viewers over to me. Yes, you do get points for sticking with the raid if you want to collect some channel points. If you stick around for the raid, I think you get like 200 and 250 channel points for sticking with the raid. Yeah. So there's nothing you have to do at all. I do it, and as long as you stick around, you'll get those points. So let's see what this person's doing. Curious. They're drawing something? Okay. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Chatting. I want to get the same category. Yeah, I need that. Here we go. Horror games. Super Bass Hackathon finale. Ooh. That might be fun. Although if they're on a hackathon, they might not be engaging with chat very much. Game dev. Oh, Vash is on. Okay. Vash. Okay. Yeah, we'll head over to Vash. I don't know why they didn't come up. What's their full name? I don't know why they're not coming up. The people have spoken. Yeah, we'll do them. What's their Team Vash? That's right. Team Vash. There we go. Okay, let's hit them up. See what they're working on. I think they're still working on their game, probably. So yeah, we'll hit them up, and everybody have a great week. And I will see you all next weekend for probably a project of some kind. We got to get back on the project train. We'll probably build another application or start an application or something like that. Start to finish, full stack, MERN stack. Let's go, baby. All right, Team Vash, rock and roll. Starting the raid now. All right, raid is starting in 5 seconds, and you will automatically be directed to their channel. So I will see you all next week. Bye bye.